Chapter 22:12 Shrine and Massacre. Lin Feng watched Gu Xiantian. Another demon king had appeared behind Gu Xiantian. After that, demon lights glittered. Lin Feng saw Gu Xiantian's body divide into 9 demon shadows. 5 were at the bottom, 3 in the middle and 1 at the top, 9 demon kings. A mighty demon chi kept emerging from them. He looked like a peerless demon fighter. A wave of demonic energies swept out from him. The demon looked extremely arrogant. The atmosphere became oppressive. Lin Feng released an endless amount of Holy Spirit and modified sky-absorbing strength. 9 words started floating around him. An ancient and oppressive chi filled the air as he divided into 3 silhouettes. Lin Feng couldn't afford to be careless in front of a genius of a shrine. Show me how strong you can get. The 9 demons shot towards Lin Feng, explosive strength emerging from them. The 9 demons raised their hands at the same time and emitted furious shrieks. They had the same movements, and their explosive strength kept increasing. Lin Feng looked cold and detached. He used his holy fist and roared out. Ancient sky-absorbing strength surged out. A gigantic demon punch collided with the holy punch. Terrifying energies exploded. Gu Xiantian looked excited. He waved his hands, and terrifying demon strength continued moving towards Lin Feng. He wanted to destroy Lin Feng. Lin Feng raised his head and released towering sword strength. A gigantic sword streaked across the sky and destroyed the gigantic demon hands. Lin Feng is really strong. Against all expectations, he can compete with Gu Xiantian. I wonder how strong Gu Xiantian can be though. People from shrines can fight using many different methods. People from the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds weren't all like Lin Feng. Jiuling Huang had vermilion bird's wings. He was from a shrine, and he couldn't be much weaker than Gu Xiantian. Fire appeared in his hands, looking alive. Jiuling Huang attacked the fire which was moving towards him with fire, but surprisingly his fire instantly disappeared. Die! Shouted Jin Xingzi at that moment. His fire turned into a fire mace, looking ever more terrifying. He wanted to crush his opponent. Jiuling Huang released more flames, which looked like they were dancing in the air around him. The flames turned into a terrifying fire armor. 9 terrifying beams of light crashed onto the fire armor at the same time, but they didn't pierce through. Jin Xingzi smiled coldly. He threw himself at Jiuling Huang and released even more fire. The fire pierced through the Jiuling Huang's fire armor and the armor started weakening. Many flames also emerged from Jin Xingzi's fire mace and strengthened his attacks. When the crowd saw that, their faces stiffened. Jin Xingzi had a fire body. He could drain and absorb Jiuling Huang's fire. He could even absorb Jiuling Huang's 9 flames. What could Jiuling Huang do against that? Jiuling Huang is in danger. The crowd when they saw a vortex appear around Jiuling Huang's fire armor. Something was absorbing his fire. At the same time, his 9 flames fled and returned to Jiuling Huang's body. Jiuling Huang couldn't let his 9 flames move away from him, otherwise he would have lost his entire defense. When his 9 flames were outside, his opponent could swallow them. Jiuling Huang couldn't afford to lose his fire. Come back. Jiuling Huang sensed the danger. His expression didn't change. He had recalled his fire into his body. Fire rotating around him. 9 flames glittered in his body. His opponent's fire still couldn't pierce through his body. However, at that moment, Jin Xingzi's fire mace crashed onto Jiuling Huang's body. A terrifying fire which could make anything explode bombarded Jiuling Huang's vital organs. That fire oppressed his strength. Slash. Jiuling Huang grunted with pain and coughed up blood and flames as he was hurled away. He couldn't stand steadily anymore. A terrifying fire was corroding his body. It felt like his opponent's fire had planted fire seeds in his body. Jiuling Huang closed his eyes. He made his inner fire move towards those fire seeds. He had to get rid of them. However, at that moment, Jin Xingzi smiled evilly. He slowly walked towards Jiuling Huang. A genius of the continent of the 9 clouds? He was a genius from a shrine. He had gone through a lot in life. He had been chosen, selected, and eliminated many times during various events in his life. He had also gone through terrifying battles and killed many people. He was one of the 3 strongest emperors of the Fire Shrine, a core disciple of the Fire Shrine. He was an important element of the Fire Shrine. Most people at the same level were too far behind to ever catch up. Oh no, the strong cultivator of the Fire Shrine wants to kill Jiuling Huang, protested the crowd. Many people frowned. It was the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds, and now it was going to turn into a massacre? The strong cultivator of the Fire Shrine isn't the only one. The other geniuses from the shrines also want to kill their opponents. People called out. Their hearts were pounding as they gazed into the distance. They had never thought such a thing would happen. Ling Huang. Ru Yun pulled a long face. How come? How was this possible? What was going on? Yao Yao looked extremely nervous and her face turned deathly pale. Her mouth twitched as she bit through her lips and blood appeared. Jiuling Huang opened his eyes. He was burning and staring at his opponent. What a powerful fire. It's going to become mine and I'll break through to the Di Qi layer, said Jin Xingzi, staring at Jiuling Huang's fire greedily. That kind of fire would be extremely beneficial for him. He threw himself at Jiuling Huang, his fire mace leading the way. Jiuling Huang didn't only control fire strength. He could also carry out soul attacks. However, he had already tried them and they were useless against Jin Xingzi because the latter managed to oppress them. Jiuling Huang went into a frenzy. Jin Xingzi's fire pierced through his body. Jiuling Huang didn't even block it. He used both hands to grab the handle of the fire mace and flames of fury burned in his eyes. Arg! Jiuling Huang screamed defiantly. Scorching hot qi rose. He turned into an ocean of flames and threw himself at Jin Xingzi's head. Jin Xingzi was shocked. He opened his eyes and spat out a fire bird reflexively. He wanted to absorb Jiuling Huang's fire. However, Jiuling Huang's fire continued pulsing out. Jin Xingzi was astonished. He raised his hands to protect himself from the fire attack, jumping forwards as his own fire dashed to the skies. He disappeared in the fire and reappeared somewhere else. He didn't even try to take back his fire mace. He managed to injure me, thought Jin Xingzi. He was staring at his own hands. They were charred black, burned by Jiuling Huang's fire. He pulled a long face and stared at Jiuling Huang with murder in his eyes. A terrifying flame arose and surrounded him. Jiuling Huang's face had paled. Jin Xingzi really wanted to kill him. Jin Xingzi disappeared from where he was and turned into a fire shadow. Jiuling Huang waved his hands and condensed 9 terrifying flames in a blazing inferno. Even with charred hands, Jin Xingzi still managed to destroy the fire and then threw himself at Jiuling Huang again. There was an explosion of impact, and Jiuling Huang was hurled again, coughing blood. He was severely injured. At the same time, on the other side of the battlefield, Mara groaned with pain. An ice attack crashed onto his body. He had the impression he was going to turn into an ice statue. The cultivator of the shrine wanted to kill him. Among the 10 geniuses of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds, 2 have been injured. They're in danger. The crowd frowned, their faces stiff. Lin Feng, who was fighting against Gu Xiantian, also noticed that the situation was worsening around him for the other participants of the meeting. He looked furious. You're not here to exchange views on cultivation, you're not here to compare yourselves with us. You're here to slaughter us. The strong cultivators of the shrines have come to kill, said Lin Feng coldly. An ancient tree appeared. It contained the energies of the 10,000 things of creation, radiating into the air. He condensed demon strength, shouted, and used a demon punch attack. Rumbling sounds spread out, and the sky trembled. He moved quickly and landed next to Jiuling Huang. He said coldly, "If you have great imperial weapons, use them. No need to be merciful. They're not here to exchange views on cultivation." Chapter 22:13. Danger. The 10 cultivators of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds had grave expressions. They agreed with Lin Feng. The geniuses from the shrines weren't there to exchange views on cultivation, they were there to kill them. They didn't need to be merciful anymore. If they had been there to exchange views on cultivation, they would have stopped fighting after defeating their opponents, But Jiuling Huang had already been defeated, and his opponent continued attacking him. Everybody had noticed that these people were not there to exchange views on cultivation, but to kill. Gu Xiantian was astonished. Lin Feng was going insane and had a special tree inside his body. He was from a shrine. He didn't know that this tree was from the Dark Night region's Godly Wood Valley. It was a Heavenly Grace ancient tree. Lin Feng had punched him and sent him flying. He was furious. He looked at Lin Feng and Jiuling Huang. Then he jumped and landed behind Lin Feng and Jiuling Huang, while Huixing Zi was in front of them. A terrifying qi filled the air. It was incredible. Huixing Zi, let's play a game, let's see who can kill them first, said Gu Xiantian to Huixing Zi. Huixing Zi's eyes were filled with flames. His fire mace was already back in his hands. He said coldly, that's exactly what I wanted to do. Those two guys will kill Lin Feng and Jiuling Huang. That's so cruel. The crowd was shaking. Many people were furious. Lin Feng and the others were the strongest geniuses of the continent of the 9 clouds. They had gone through a lot to reach the top of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds rankings. Now the shrines had sent their own geniuses to attack them by surprise and kill them. That wasn't fair at all. That bunch of bastards are core disciples in shrines. They are naturally really strong. If Lin Feng and the others had practiced cultivation at a shrine for a long time, they would definitely be stronger than them. They made it to the very top of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. They just need more time to become unmatched cultivators. The shrines don't want them to become stronger. Many people were indignant. The shrines had joined hands and were attacking the geniuses of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. They had sent their core disciples on top of that. The 10 shrines are way too cruel. Some people in Godly Cloud City shouted furiously. Even those who were outside of the battle stage and who had been eliminated before were furious. However, what could they do? Nothing. They couldn't fight against the shrine's geniuses. To the strong cultivators of the shrines, those who had been eliminated were tiny little insects. The geniuses from the shrines wanted to kill the top 10 cultivators of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. Naturally, they could easily kill those who had been eliminated before. However, the crowd didn't understand why the shrines had joined hands to attack the geniuses of the meeting. Was it because of the fortune shrine? After all, those 10 people were supposed to become disciples of the fortune shrine. At that moment, Gu Xiantian and Huixing Zi charged Lin Feng and Jiuling Huang. Fire and demon energies intertwined. Gu Xiantian was surrounded by demon lights and Huixing Zi was holding his fire mace. They wanted to kill their opponents. Lin Feng looked at them coldly. He said to Jiuling Huang, block Gu Xiantian's attack and I'll attack the guy from the fire shrine. Huixing Zi hadn't fought against Lin Feng yet, but he had bet with Gu Xiantian. They wanted to kill Lin Feng and Jiuling Huang first. Lin Feng was going to use that opportunity to attack him by surprise. Alright, I have great imperial weapons. I'll use them to stop him, but these people are from shrines and they probably have powerful great imperial weapons too. If they use them, we're going to die, replied Jiuling Huang. That's why he hadn't taken out any great imperial weapon, because the members of the shrines probably had even more powerful weapons on them. No choice. If we continue like this, we'll all die here, said Lin Feng. They were all telepathically. The talk was done in an instant. He released a terrifying amount of wind and empty space cosmic energies around himself and faced Huixing Zi. Are you getting ready to escape? Said Huixing Zi, staring at Lin Feng coldly. That kind of wind cosmic energy was good for moving fast. The battlefield was too small. He looked at Lin Feng as if he were looking at prey. The fire in Huixing Zi's fire mace became even more denser. Finally, he smiled cruelly and said, let's see how strong the one who ranked first is. He advanced on Lin Feng. At the same time, he raised his fire mace and continued condensing fire in it. Ling Huang raised his fists and punched out. A strong wind started shrieking as energies blotted out the sky. More flames appeared in Huixing Zi's eyes. He ran towards Lin Feng without the least hesitation. His fire became more and more powerful. If that fire penetrated into Lin Feng's body, his physical body wouldn't be able to resist it. Even Jiao Ling Huang was badly injured, even though he was from a fire family. Ding. A cauldron echoed and shot towards Huixingzi. Deadly lights rotated around it. Lin Feng had condensed as much energy as he could inside to attack Huixingzi's soul. Death sound waves also started pulsing out. Everything around the cauldron smelled like death. Ding. The cauldron rang again. Huixingzi wasn't far from the cauldron, but his body had already turned black, his soul trembling. He had the impression he was going to be crushed. The death intent swept over him and bore down on his flames. Lin Feng released death swords. His death intent was astonishingly strong. He moved like the wind, terrifyingly fast, appearing in front of Huixingzi in the twinkling of an eye. Huixingzi was trying to get rid of the death strength which was corroding his body. When he saw Lin Feng appear in front of him, his face stiffened. "Die!" shouted Lin Feng furiously. His demon voice made Huixingzi's eardrums tremble. Lin Feng raised his fist and punched out toward Xingzi's head furiously. Huixingzi's expression stiffened as he stared at Lin Feng. Two killing fire lights emerged from his eyes. Lin Feng sensed the danger, but he continued punching out without hesitation. "How insane," the audience said when they saw that. Their hearts were pounding violently. Huixingzi was a strong fire cultivator from the fire shrine. Lin Feng took great risks to attack him. "Explode!" shouted Huixingzi furiously. Huixingzi was surrounded by fire lights and rose up into the air. The ancient cauldron followed him, making him look numb. "He has some precious treasures in his eyes," Lin Feng noticed. Huixingzi shook his head, blood appearing down the sides. He glared at Lin Feng. How terrifying! Lin Feng surprisingly nearly destroyed Huixingzi's skull. His fist didn't reach Huixingzi's face, but if it had, with Lin Feng's strength, his head would have exploded. The experts noticed. Jiao Ling Huang had used a great imperial weapon to stop Gu Xiantian's attack. The other battles were also becoming more and more terrifying. The strong cultivators of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds gathered together. Zhou Rongman had saved Mara, who had almost been killed. They all belonged to the same group now. The people from the shrines wanted to kill them. Very good. Huixingzi's fire mace turned into fire lights and moved back into his body. At the same time, 2 other fire maces reappeared in his hands. They were 3 zhang long and filled with fire. They looked dreadful. Gu Xiantian was now wearing a demon king's armor. He looked like a demon god. Nobody could pierce through his defense. Oh no, the strong cultivators from the shrines have extremely powerful great imperial weapons. The crowd was shaken even more. However, the finalists of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds were surrounded. The battle didn't look good for them, and nobody could help them. Jing was staring at Lin Feng's familiar cauldron. As expected, it was him, but at that moment she was worried about Lin Feng. She wanted to understand why the 10 shrines had joined hands to fight against them. What had happened? Why was all this happening? The shrines had extremely important positions in the world. Such things never happened unless there were special circumstances. Did they want to oppress the new disciples of the Fortune Shrine? Chapter 22:14 Battle in the Ancient Times. Jing wasn't the only one who was nervous, everybody was. Why? Asked Chu Chunqiu at that moment. He had also gathered together with the others. He was staring at the members of the shrines. We come from different places of the continent. We came here to join the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. We tried to improve our living conditions. We wanted to join a shrine. But now, why are you attacking us, the 10 best cultivators of the meeting? Chu Chunqiu's sky-absorbing strength pulsed. He hadn't expected this. How could he be happy? All the others felt the same. But why were the shrines doing this to them? None of the disciples of the shrines replied. They were holding their great imperial weapons and qi was sweeping out from them. Kong Ming kept chanting mantras, golden lights rising around him. A mala necklace appeared in his hand, and a terrifying curtain of light appeared around him. He looked like an indestructible Buddha. "Are you ready to fight?" said Kong Ming calmly. Everybody understood that it wasn't the right moment to ask why all this was happening. The shrine's cultivators wanted to slaughter them as soon as possible. They needed to fight. The deployment master looked at the cauldron floating in front of Lin Feng coldly. That cauldron was his. Lin Feng couldn't use all its powers to the fullest. Back when he was still a great deployment master, the cauldron was extremely powerful. Back then, he had never thought that someday someone would steal his cauldron and modify it. Silhouettes flickered. The 10 strong cultivators of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds were holding their great imperial weapons and getting ready to attack. Lightning descended from the sky and bombarded the curtain of lights. Breaking and snapping sounds could be heard. One attack, and the light curtain exploded. If the shrine's strong cultivators had taken out great imperial weapons before, the 10 strong cultivators of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds would have died already. They didn't do it straight away because they were just playing. The crowd murmured. More melodious breaking and snapping sounds spread out, and deadly energies filled the air. It was getting dangerous for the 10 cultivators of the meeting. Their eyes were bloodshot and their faces stiff. What had they done to make the shrines want to kill them? They didn't know that one of them had made the destiny wheel rotate. In the history of the continent, some people at the top of the shrines couldn't accept that. Therefore, they wanted to kill those people to be sure that the one who had made the destiny wheel rotate would be killed. Actually, all the shrines had already gone so far, they didn't mind being cruel even if it meant killing geniuses. The destiny wheel didn't affect only one shrine, so they had to take measures. Therefore, destruction was the only solution. None of them could remain. They didn't know who had caused the destiny wheel to rotate. They could only guess that one of the top 10 cultivators of the meeting had done so, and more probably someone who was in the top 5. A terrifyingly strong cultivator from the demon shrine looked cold and detached, like a demon king. He was staring at the ground and thought, in the ancient times, because the destiny shrine rotated, the fortune shrine became much, much stronger. All the other shrines were in danger, so they had joined hands and a terrifying battle took place and made the whole continent shake. No place was spared. Back then, the fortune shrine was eventually oppressed. After that, the fortune shrine remained discreet for a very long time. Such a thing can't be allowed to happen again. People learned from history. That terrifying battle remained symbolic in many powerful people's memories. That had happened in the ancient times, and after that, the shrines had become weaker, including the fortune shrine. They had existed for many years, but it wasn't a flourishing era for them anymore. However, many years had passed and the ancient days were long past. The shrines had also started becoming a little bit more famous once again. It was a new era. Some terrifying cultivators had risen. However, 1,000 years ago, the Destiny Shrine had rotated again. However, nothing special had happened. The shrines had asked the Destiny Shrine about it. They hadn't found anything strange. Now, 1,000 years later, the Destiny Shrine had rotated again, and it was again the Fortune Shrine's turn to organize the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. Therefore, the Fortune Shrine had decided to use the Great Destiny technique. The other shrines couldn't keep calm. That was the reason for this battle. They wanted to kill the 10 strongest cultivators of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds, because they didn't want another war like in the distant past. The shrines had never forgotten that war. The leaders of the shrines were people who lost their parents, ancestors, and teachers during that war. They didn't want another war to start. Why does the destiny wheel rotate each time it's the Fortune Shrine's turn? Is it good for them or bad? Thought that strong cultivator. Back then, the Fortune Shrine had risen after the Destiny Shrine had rotated. Many strong cultivators had emerged from the Fortune Shrine. A new flourishing era had started for them. However, the battles had started and they had lost an incredible amount of strong cultivators, too. This time, it was the second time the destiny wheel had rotated in 1,000 years. What did that mean? Ching! A clear and melodious sound rang out as Kong Ming's light curtain broke apart. A terrifying attack came crashing down. Many people trembled. Were the 10 strongest cultivators of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds really going to die? Initially, I wanted to play with you, but since you want to bring about your own destruction, then I'll help you. I should have done it earlier, said Gu Xiantian coldly. He started walking forwards, destructive energies filling the air as he stepped forwards. His demon armor was domineering. No, Yao Yao's face turned deathly pale. She looked terrified. Qing Feng started running forwards. She wanted to join the battle. "Feng!" shouted Jing. That girl was insane. She was going to die if she joined the battle. The enemies were the shrine's strongest emperors. A dazzling light descended from the sky and illuminated everyone. The members of the shrines jumped away, and a second white beam of light filled the air. "Where is he?" The strong cultivators of the shrines were stunned. When they had appeared, nobody had prevented them from attacking. Now, the first beam of light had taken someone away. Is the Fortune Shrine finally going to get involved? Thought the crowd. They were astonished. Only the Fortune Shrine could make the battle stop. Had the Fortune Shrine attacked? Why had the shrine taken someone away? Had the members of the shrines come to attack because of that person, and not because of everybody? Why did the shrine let the strong cultivators of the other shrines chase him? When the crowd saw that one of the fighters was missing, they were astonished. The Fortune Shrine had taken someone away and now they let the other shrines chase him? That was strange. And the person who had been taken away was Chu Chunqiu. Why did the Fortune Shrine take Chu Chunqiu away, and only him? Does it mean anything? Wondered a lot of people. The disciples of the shrines all looked furious. A moment before, only 5 people had been able to compete with them: Lin Feng, Kong Ming, Chu Chunqiu, Zhou Rongman, and the deployment master. The others were weaker. Therefore, it could have been any of them. The meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds is over. Those from the top 10, follow me to the Fortune Shrine. You will receive your rewards in the Fortune Shrine, said the diviner at that moment. He wasn't smiling anymore, sounding quite cold. The shrine cultivators were stunned. The strongest cultivators of the 10 other shrines weren't there anymore, so they couldn't prevent the diviner from doing that. The 10 members of the shrines chased after him. Nobody stayed there. That guy was too important, murmured the crowd. The diviner landed in front of the fighters, lights surrounded them, and the 9 disappeared. They're gone. The 10 disciples of the shrines were astonished now. 2 lights beams appeared, delivering some of the strongest cultivators of 2 shrines. Chapter 22:15. Imperial Court of the Continent of the 9 Clouds. When the diviner took Lin Feng and the others away, the crowd looked confused. The diviner left quickly because of the other shrines, they realized. The other shrines had joined hands and finally, the Fortune Shrine had decided to react and to take away the strongest cultivators of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds away. That also officially the end of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. Everything was going to happen behind the scenes after that. Duan Feng's eyes were twinkling at that moment. He didn't understand either what was going on. The members of the Snow Clan were stupefied. Jitian clenched his fists. The young man in front of him smiled indifferently and said, "Interesting." The 2 strong cultivators from the 2 shrines who had just appeared, disappeared again. Some members of the Fortune City appeared to sort things out there. They took those of the top 50 to Fortune City to become members. At the same time, the top 100 would also be able to travel to and from the inner part of Godly Cloud City freely. After that, people slowly left the platform and everything returned to normal. People from Godly Cloud City also slowly started leaving. They were confused and astonished. The meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds was over? They had the sensation things hadn't ended the way they should have. They were still thinking about all the great battles. The watchers slowly left. The inner part of Godly Cloud City and the outer part were divided once more. People from the 12 towns of Godly Cloud City couldn't see what was going on in the inner part of Godly Cloud City anymore. Only those who had the permission to come to the inner part of Godly Cloud City could see what was happening there, like the top 100 cultivators of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. They wanted to explore the inner part of Godly Cloud City and see what it looked like, as it was a legendary place. Ho Qing Lin, Lang Yi, Junimo Shi and the others were in a city they knew nothing of. They could see celestial palaces floating in the air. It was an incredible sight. That celestial city which is floating in the air is Fortune City. The friends were amazed. The chi here is incredible. The cosmic strength is thick and dense. Is this the inner part of godly Cloud City? Wondered the people glancing around. There were spectacular buildings everywhere containing celestial chi. The top 100 cultivators of the meeting started walking around, many people sighing. What a mysterious world. Sometimes, people passed and when they saw them they looked surprised, some of their eyes glittering. The people who had just arrived were all new geniuses. Let's go to Fortune City. At that moment, the top 50 cultivators of the meeting headed towards Fortune City. At that moment, a group of young people with astonishing chi appeared in the distance. They smiled at the crowd when they arrived and said, "Congratulations and welcome to the Imperial Court of the Continent of the Nine Clouds." Imperial Court of the Continent of the Nine Clouds? The fighters were taken aback. This place was the Imperial Court of the Continent of the Nine Clouds? In Fortune City? There was a starry sky above when Lin Feng and the others arrived there with the diviner. They all stood there and looked at the dazzling stars. They looked so close and so far away at the same time. Lin Feng looked at the rest of the crowd. One of them was missing, Chu Chunqiu. He had been taken away a moment before them. The strong cultivators of the other shrines had chased after him. Lin Feng didn't know what it was all about. Some people in white robes came up to them slowly. Their chi was only barely discernible, they looked aloof from worldly strife, and their cultivation level was hidden. They were obviously extremely strong. "We shouldn't have let you go through this, but it was also a test for you. You'll go to different places now and choose your path," the diviner informed them. He nodded at the people in white clothes. "Kong Ming, come with me," said one of them to Kong Ming. "Zhou Rong Man, come with me," said another one. The fighters didn't understand and had their doubts, but they were in the Fortune Shrine now and people from Fortune Shrine would definitely take care of them. Everybody left but Lin Feng. He was left behind, alone with the diviner. "Lin Feng," the diviner said, smiling gently. "Master," said Lin Feng respectfully. They had met again, after such a long time. "Lin Feng, first, congratulations to you for your achievements. You must have many questions. But now I'm going to tell you some very important things. Listen carefully," said the diviner seriously. "All right," said Lin Feng when he saw how solemn the diviner looked. It probably had something to do with what had just happened. "I need to tell you what happened on the continent in the ancient past. Strong cultivators can create small worlds when they reach a certain level. In the continent of the Nine Clouds, there were more and more people being born. In the small worlds, the same thing happened. So the continent of the Nine Clouds became too small, and chi even became rare. As a result, some of the strongest cultivators started creating rules. They wanted a unified continent. But people fought for power, which is how the shrines were created. They started fighting for supremacy." Lin Feng listened carefully. His heart was pounding. As he had always thought, someday he'd join a shrine and learn about the behind-the-scenes stories. That moment had finally come. He was going to learn more about the real world. Nobody knows how long those supreme cultivators fought. However, it stopped long ago. In the ancient past, there were 9 shrines establishing their dominance. The Starlit Sky Shrine, the Time Shrine, the Countless Shrine, the Empty Space Shrine, the Life Shrine, the Fire Shrine, the Ice and Snow Shrine, the Dazzling Gold Shrine, and the Earth Shrine. Those were the original shrines, with the Starlit Sky Shrine now called the Fortune Shrine. The Countless Shrine is the current Buddha Shrine. The Time Shrine disappeared a long time ago. All the other shrines emerged with time. However, no matter what, the 9 shrines are symbolic because after their establishment, the ancient wars and chaos ceased. At the same time, because of the scarcity of chi, 9 extremely strong cultivators built 9 worlds which would never change. The continent of the 9 clouds. Continent of the 9 clouds, thought Lin Feng. His heart was pounding. The continent of the 9 clouds had been created by strong cultivators? So the place where we are now is the real, only, and original world? Asked Lin Feng. Indeed. It's called the Imperial Court of the Continent of the 9 Clouds now. This world became a symbol of the ancient days because of the 9 shrines. After that, many strong cultivators rose and created their own worlds. hell, the supreme animal world, and so on. But those worlds' histories aren't as old as the continent of the Nine Clouds' history, and those worlds are controlled by some individuals most of the time. For example, hell is controlled by the Hell Shrine. The continent of the Nine Clouds is the most mature world, and it has no leader. Many strong cultivators keep rising in the continent of the Nine Clouds, and then they also create their own small worlds. Lin Feng listened calmly. Even though the diviner said the continent of the Nine Clouds had no leader, the shrines were the supreme leaders there. They controlled the continent of the Nine Clouds. Nobody has ever managed to control this world alone. No shrine has ever managed to completely take control over this world, said the diviner. Raising his head, he gazed into the distance and said, "Until now, it has never happened. Back then, the destiny wheel rotated, and an incredible cultivator appeared. He took control over the fortune shrine and made it rise. He could pose a threat to all the shrines. Therefore, back then, all the other shrines joined hands and attacked us. Every part of the continent was affected by the battle. That war has two names, the Destiny Battle or the Shrine's Dusk War. That battle ended long ago, and the strongest shrines remained. The weakest shrines weakened. Some other powerful groups also started rising. The different groups have always been competing, but there hasn't been such a great war again. But 1,000 years ago, the destiny wheel rotated again, and all the shrines came to the fortune shrine." Lin Feng shivered. The destiny wheel had rotated and a terrifying cultivator had appeared. A great war had happened. 1,000 years ago, something similar happened again. And the diviner continued, "And now, after 1,000 years, the destiny wheel has rotated again." Lin Feng's heart was pounding violently. Chapter 22:16. Forbidden Legends. The destiny wheel had rotated again. Lin Feng understood why the shrines had attacked them now. In the continent of the Nine Clouds, there's an expression to describe people who make the destiny wheel rotate: forbidden destiny or forbidden person. Such people can't live, all the shrines want to kill them, said the diviner. Lin Feng's face stiffened. He was shaking. However, in the continent of the Nine Clouds, people think of such cultivators as extremely strong, and they even call them shrines champions. Most people think they shouldn't be called forbidden people or forbidden destinies. In the ancient past, there were only a few people like that. After the Great War, no other forbidden person has appeared. Maybe it's due to the scarcity of qi, or maybe cultivators have become too weak. But now a new one has appeared, said the diviner, staring at Lin Feng. Lin Feng understood why he was being stared at now. The diviner said, during the meeting of the continent of the Nine Clouds, the destiny wheel rotated. Therefore, one of the finalists could be a forbidden person. And that person is probably you, Lin Feng. Phew! Lin Feng took a deep breath. Did he have some kind of forbidden body? There were legends about a forbidden or taboo body in the continent. But people didn't know what it meant, and didn't know that the shrines had fought during the Shrine's Dusk War because of someone who had a forbidden body. Lin Feng maybe might have a forbidden body, he might be a forbidden person. However, they had taken Chu Chun Chiu away. Was it to hide the true one from the other's field of vision? If the shrines didn't manage to do what they wanted, and kill the one who had activated the wheel, then they wouldn't stop looking for him. They didn't want to see a forbidden person rise. Only you, me, and 3 people from the shrine know this. You can't tell anyone about this. We will probably send you to different places of the continent. We can't keep you in the Destiny Shrine, it would be useless for you. The Destiny Shrine will do their best to calm the situation down, like 1,000 years ago, the diviner said. A set of starry clothes appeared indistinctly. He said to Lin Feng, "This an illusion robe. Wear it and you can easily change your facial features, qi, eyes, everything. Nobody can recognize you with such an item." Lin Feng was astonished, but took the clothes. Even though Mr. Zhao's masks were great, they also had limits. Extremely strong cultivators could still recognize him when he wore them. He couldn't hide from saints. But this robe would probably allow him to do so. Besides that, you deserve something for having ranked first. What do you want? Asked the diviner, smiling at Lin Feng. Lin Feng was surprised and said, "I know a saint, he was injured badly long ago. He has one thread of consciousness left. I also know a celestial emperor. His body has turned into Tao. I have another friend, a girl. She's an emperor who was injured by a great emperor. I sealed her, and she has only one thread of chi left. I hope you can heal them. For the saint, you know, it's going to be troublesome, especially if his soul has also been destroyed. But at his cultivation level, he can survive. The life shrine has some godly medicine of the immortals. It can help cultivators who have only one thread of consciousness left return to life. Then, the cultivator needs to study the rebirth scriptures and have their consciousness give birth to soul strength. But it's going to be extremely difficult to fully recover, the diviner told him. Concerning the celestial emperor who has died to turn into Tao and the girl whom you sealed, one drop of godly medicine of the immortals is enough. We have good relations with the life shrine. I can give you 3 drops as a reward for your first position. Thank you very much. Lin Feng thanked him happily. Godly medicine of the immortals was incredible. Even though the diviner mentioned that remedy in such a relaxed way, Lin Feng knew how priceless it was. As long as a saint still had any consciousness left, they could come back to life thanks to the godly medicine of the immortals. Even to the life shrine, godly medicine of the immortals was priceless. However, the diviner had agreed to give him 3 drops. It was incredibly generous. If Saint Tianhun knew this, he would do all he could to kill Lin Feng. He had come to the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. That medicine was his biggest hope. He had hoped he'd be able to get godly medicine of the immortals. The body he had captured wasn't great. Godly medicine of the immortals could help someone like him become as strong as back in his prime. But even with such a medicine, saints needed to study the rebirth scriptures to come back to life. Saint Qin Shan had almost died. His injuries were unbelievably serious. Minister Uptala, as well as Qing Qing, were weak in comparison to the powers of the godly medicine of the immortals. Even if they only had one thread of qi left, they could completely recover with the godly medicine of the immortals. Even if Minister Uptala had turned into Tao, the Tao still contained his soul. Come, I'll take you somewhere, the diviner said. Lin Feng followed him as they left. They were walking through the starlit sky. After a very long time, Lin Feng didn't know where he was, but they were in a starry world when the diviner finally stopped. At that moment, they were surrounded by stars. Continent of the 9 clouds. Lin Feng was astonished when he looked at the starry sky. Godly clouds, purple clouds, the dark night region. All the regions of the continent of the 9 clouds were in the sky. Apart from the continent of the 9 clouds, there was hell and even some unfinished worlds. What's that? Asked Lin Feng to the diviner. He was curious. The continent of the 9 clouds, hell and some small worlds entrances, said the diviner to Lin Feng. Lin Feng was astonished. You can go to the continent of the 9 clouds or hell from here? Indeed. The continent of the 9 clouds was created by a supreme cultivator back in the days. It's also a small world. The imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds is the real world. There are passages to many small worlds here. The supreme animal world is one of them. Of course, there are many small worlds. Nobody can invade the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds, because the shrines are here, the diviner explained to Lin Feng. Lin Feng, you will spend a few days here. I will give you some skills and techniques. You'll tell me if you want more. Of course, you are a forbidden person, so they are not really useful for you. Your future can't be determined by destiny either. You'll need to create your own strength. In a few days, you'll leave Fortune City and practice everywhere. You can go anywhere. The continent of the 9 clouds, the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds, or other worlds. All right, I'll practice elsewhere, and when I become a great emperor, I'll come back, agreed Lin Feng. He hadn't forgotten about the agreement with the Snow Clan, 20 years. He had to save Meng Qing and his child. Master, the Snow Clan is probably in the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds, right? How strong are they? Asked Lin Feng. Yes, they are a very old clan. They've existed since the ancient times. But during the Great War, they lost many people and became quite weak. But 2 new monarchs have appeared in the Snow Clan now, so they're really happy. 2 monarchs? Shuai and? With Meng Qing there should be 3, thought Lin Feng. Why are you asking me about the Snow Clan? Said the diviner. We are in conflict. Lin Feng's eyes glittered. Oh, even though the Fortune Shrine can help you right now, you should remain discreet, and not only you, but all the others of the top 10 of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. You all need to travel and become stronger. When the situation calms down, if you need the Fortune Shrine to help you, tell me. Then, you can head to the other shrines and show them that you're not the weakling you used to be. Someday, they won't be able to do anything to you anymore. Definitely, promised Lin Feng. He took a deep breath. The Snow Clan's saints despised him. He was a nobody to them. Shuai was aggressive and extremely strong. He needed to become stronger. Back then, if Qing Feng hadn't brought Shiju Lao Xian, the Snow Clan would have killed him. If he had died, Meng Qing would have killed herself. Lin Feng didn't dare think about such things. Lin Feng would definitely get his revenge for everything they had done to him, Meng Qing, and their baby. Lin Feng raised his head and looked at the stars. He had ranked first at the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. Finally, he was becoming a really strong cultivator. No matter what, he had to press forward with indomitable will. Now, he was a forbidden person. The shrines wanted to kill him. He had to become extremely strong. Chapter 22:17. Influence. The meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds hadn't been influenced by the 10 shrines. The other shrines didn't dare do anything to the Fortune Shrine. 1,000 years before, something similar had happened, and the Fortune Shrine had managed to calm the situation down. Of course, apart from people from the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds, nobody else knew about it in the outside world. The great emperor's meeting had incredible repercussions. However, the emperor's meeting also amazed many people, as the shrine's appearance had astonished everybody. There were many rumors in Godly Cloud City now. Some people said that Chu Chunqiu might be a forbidden person, and the shrines possibly feared him. Some people even said that in the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds, people who had just joined the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds walked around and observed. There were many powerful cultivators there. Many people wanted to become stronger there. The meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds was over, and most of the people who had just arrived were cultivators of the very top of the Huang Qi layer. They wanted to break through to the Di Qi layer. Qing Feng was in the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds as well. She was staying with Jing. Jing was actually from a clan of the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds. Qing Feng was too, but she didn't want to go back. She wanted to go to Fortune City, but apart from disciples of the Fortune Shrine, other people couldn't really go there. Of course, the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds also had repercussions in the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds. Some people who had participated also started traveling in the continent of the 9 clouds. In the Dark Night region's Holy Spirit dynasty, a ceremony was being held for the ancestors. On the altar were many jade talismans. The names of the core disciples were written on those jade talismans. Lin Feng's name was written on a particular one. His name was written differently than other people's names, but nobody disagreed. Qiong Sheng, that's the Holy Dynasty Prince's name, your father. In the future, you'll be like your father, said the Holy Emperor to Lin Qiongsheng solemnly. Lin Qiongsheng was now 150 meters tall. Even though he looked young, he wasn't weak at all. Lin Qiongsheng looked at the talisman. He felt proud. His father, someone who wasn't from the Holy Spirit dynasty, had the most important position in the Holy Spirit dynasty, Holy Dynasty Prince. How glorious! Qiongsheng, your father is the strongest emperor of the continent of the 9 clouds. You have to continue making efforts, said the Holy Emperor happily. He had chosen Lin Feng back then, and it was the right decision. Now, Lin Feng was the strongest emperor of the continent of the 9 clouds, and he had become one of the Fortune Shrine's core disciples. Lin Feng would become splendid and glorious in the future. However, apart from the Holy Spirit dynasty, the other dynasties in Qitian Holy Town weren't happy at all. When the news spread, many people looked worried. Back then, they had joined hands to attack Lin Feng, Now that he had become the strongest emperor of the continent and was a member of a shrine, if Lin Feng came back to Qitian Holy Town a few years later, would he come to get his revenge? Of course, the biggest city in the Dark Knight region wasn't Qitian Holy Town, it was the Holy City. The Ji clan, the Pei clan, and others were all terrified. Lin Feng had finished first at the meeting of the Continent of the Nine Clouds. How strong would he become in the future? Back then, they hated Lin Feng more than anything. They had tried to kill him many times, especially the Ji clan. They had dreamt of killing Lin Feng before he could become strong enough. The whole Dark Knight region was shaken because 2 of their people had finished in the top 3 of the meeting of the Continent of the Nine Clouds. Lin Feng had finished first. Chu Chunqiu had finished third. Celestial Godly University was happy and proud for Chu Chunqiu. Champion University was proud and happy for Lin Feng. In Champion University's Champion Palace, Lin Feng's name had already disappeared from the ranking list. He didn't need his name there, and he didn't need to be considered a champion either. He didn't need to be like Ji Chang back in the days. Lin Feng was the strongest emperor of the Continent of the Nine Clouds. He was a real champion. Lin Feng's name was carved in the walls. There was a commemorative place in his honor. On that plate was written, "Meeting of the Continent of the Nine Clouds." First place. That simple sentence said it all. At the same time, at the foot of the cave with a waterfall at its mouth, there was a gigantic statue of Lin Feng. It was 10 zhang tall and very lifelike. The statue depicted him as a demon cultivator. Someone went up to the statue and stayed in front of it for a long time before turning and leaving. Now, apart from Lin Feng, the second strongest cultivator of Champion University comes here every day and looks at Lin Feng's statue. Lin Feng has become a goal for him, whispered many people. That person wasn't the only one though. Many people, including many beautiful women, came to look at Lin Feng's statue often. That's my fellow disciple. He's handsome, talented, and extremely strong. I will never catch up with him. Yes, brother Lin Feng has achieved many things in his life. Back in the days, Ji Chang and his Ji Chang's club acted arrogantly and treated others with disdain. Ji Chang considered himself unexcelled in the world. Only Lin Feng dared create Tiantai and challenge him. Back then, at Ji Chang's champion ceremony, Lin Feng even provoked him. Then he defeated Ji Chang during the Pathfinder Day of the Imperial ranking list. How strong! He progresses really quickly too. Nobody can catch up with him. If I could become Lin Feng's wife, I'd be so happy. I'd stay with him all the time, said a beautiful woman. Dream on. Lin Feng's wife is Meng Qing. She's a celestial being. She is above worldly material attractions and not interested in mundane affairs. She's also extremely strong and talented, said some girl jokingly. At that moment, they stopped laughing as a woman was coming up to them. She also looked like a celestial being, aloof from worldly strife. How beautiful, thought the first women. That girl was so beautiful, but they had never seen her before. She looks like a celestial being. Who is she? Many men watched her. She ignored them though, only looking at Lin Feng's statue. Sister Baguio, said a young man to that celestial woman at that moment, smiling at her. Shui Baguio turned around and smiled at the young man. You also came to look at the master. Yes, I miss him. I haven't seen him in such a long time, said Xiaochen smiled. His eyebrows looked as sharp as swords. That's Yi Chen, Lin Feng's disciple. A member of Tiantai, whispered some people, looking at Yi Chen with admiration. He was Lin Feng's disciple. Yi Chen would probably become terrifyingly strong after reaching the top of the Huangqi layer. Up in the air, above the clouds, 2 old men looked at that and smiled to themselves. Old buddy, my sense of judgment is quite good. If I hadn't been there, we wouldn't be so famous. Now, many geniuses want to study here in Champion University, said Ancestor Shi Tian smiled. Bullshit, I found Lin Feng. It has nothing to do with you, said Ancestor Xian Tian. You're talking nonsense. I found him, said Ancestor Shi Tian. The 2 old men started arguing again. The earth and the sky trembled. Many people looked at the sky and shivered. The 2 ancestors were arguing and making the clouds roll around like waves. Many people also had cold sweats when they heard the ancestors argue in the sky. Surprisingly, the ancestors were arguing about who had found Lin Feng first. In the vast celestial ancient city, outside of the animal world, an elder was gazing into the distance. Little boy, forbidden body, finally you're growing up. The shrines will put pressure on you now. The fortune shrine will help you, but in the future, you'll have to rely on yourself, mused the elder. Qing Feng, you must have bumped into Jing as well. You should also go to your clan sometimes. I can't do much for you. If Lin Feng grows up and succeeds, he'll help you accomplish many things in life, thought the elder with a smile. He looked happy. Many people in the Dark Night region were thinking about the meeting of the continent of the Nine Clouds, and especially Lin Feng. Chapter 22:18. Pressure from the shrine's leaders. The situation wasn't as simple as what the diviner had told Lin Feng. Maybe he didn't want Lin Feng to feel pressured. The destiny wheel had rotated again. It was the second time in recent history. The other shrines were extremely nervous. If forbidden people became strong, wouldn't it lead to another terrifying war, like back in the days? Therefore, the shrine's leaders didn't want such a thing to happen again. The other shrine's leaders came to the fortune shrine and chatted with the leader of the fortune shrine. It was an invisible and intangible form of pressure. All of them were terrifyingly strong. Maybe they would go insane? Even though they were chatting about everything like good old friends, nobody could guarantee they weren't going to go crazy and attack. So many days have passed and you still want to see people from the meeting of the continent of the Nine Clouds, said the leader of the fortune shrine. All the other shrines' leaders were there again. Of course, you took someone away. Otherwise, we wouldn't have stayed here, replied one of them, smiling calmly. He actually sounded quite nice. All right, since you want to see them, no problem. But I have to say something. This time, we organized the meeting of the continent of the Nine Clouds, and those finished in the top 10 of the meeting of the continent of the Nine Clouds are now authentic disciples of the fortune shrine. If you kill the cultivators of the top 10, we'll have to settle accounts, said the old man of the fortune shrine calmly. Face was important for these people. You understand me, right? Said the leader of the fortune shrine. What do you want? Asked the leader of the demon shrine. He looked like a peerless demon, staring at the leader of the fortune shrine. Very simple, everybody call your core disciples. If you kill our disciples, then we'll kill yours. One life for one life. That way, the fortune shrine will not lose face, said the leader of the fortune shrine calmly. All the leaders looked pensive. If there was really a forbidden person in the fortune shrine, then losing 10 people was fine, but if there were none in the fortune shrine, then losing core disciples would be a tragedy. All right, said the leader of the fire shrine. His eyes were filled with scorching hot flames, but he sounded ice cold. I agree too, said another leader. He wanted to see if the leader of the fortune shrine would dare hand someone over. All right, some come with me, said the leader of the fortune shrine calmly. Their silhouettes flickered and they disappeared from there. In the starlit sky, someone was seated cross-legged, bathing in starlight. At that moment, someone wearing white clothes slowly appeared in front of him. He opened his eyes and smiled. Master! Lin Feng, many years ago, I told you that if you ever came to the shrine, I'd take you as my disciple. Even though you're not necessarily my disciple, you can call me teacher, said the diviner, smiling gently. Lin Feng smiled and nodded. Teacher. All right, said the diviner, smiling. Lin Feng, the leader of the shrine, told us that the other shrines aren't going to give up. They want to see the top 10 cultivators of the meeting of the continent of the Nine Clouds. Lin Feng frowned but tried to keep calm. No matter what, the fortune shrine was probably going to ensure their safety, so he didn't need to worry. Actually, the leader managed to come to an agreement with them. If we show them the top 10 cultivators, then they have to bring some of their core disciples as well. If they kill one of you, we'll kill their core disciples. Therefore, we'll see if they're ready to take risks, said the diviner. Lin Feng remained silent. That was a big bet. Would the other shrines dare take risks? The diviner didn't seem worried though. He smiled and said, Lin Feng, the shrine has already organized everything. Everything will be fine, but we still have to be vigilant. What kind of cloning technique do you know? 3 live scriptures, Lin Feng replied honestly. His new biggest secret was that he had a forbidden body, and the diviner knew that. His life was in the fortune shrine's hands. Therefore, he didn't hide anything from them. They wanted to protect him and help him rise. Alright, leave a clone here and come with your real body. After all, if you made a clone go, they'd notice it immediately and things could deteriorate, said the diviner after remaining silent for a few seconds. He was amazed on the inside, however. Lin Feng had studied the 3 live scriptures. He had really started walking on the path of a forbidden person. In the ancient days, after the Great War, a few strong cultivators had started rising, and the 3 Lives Emperor was one of them back then. Lin Feng left a clone behind and gathered with the others. The diviner appeared later, not arriving with Lin Feng. That way, nobody would know that Lin Feng and the diviner were close, not even people from the fortune shrine themselves. Their group gathered in a celestial palace. When the strong cultivators arrived and saw the geniuses all shuddered. How strong, thought Lin Feng when he saw them. One of them looked like a peerless demon god. People would submit just by looking at him. How come someone is missing? Asked someone coldly. Indeed, someone was missing from the top 10 cultivators. Chu Chunqiu wasn't there. I guess the teachers did that on purpose to make them think Chu Chunqiu is the forbidden person, thought Lin Feng. He's not a disciple of the fortune shrine anymore, so he isn't here, said the leader of the fortune shrine calmly. What does that mean? Your people chased him so he didn't feel safe in the fortune shrine. He decided to leave after that. So we took him to the supreme animal world, said the leader of the fortune shrine calmly. The outsiders were astonished. Supreme animal world? He went to the supreme animal world? Asked the leader of the ice shrine coldly. Ganji's time, supreme animal world's godly forbidden territory, replied the leader of the fortune shrine. The crowd was astounded. You're insane, said the leader of the ice shrine coldly. I don't believe you, added the leader of the demon shrine. The leader of the fortune shrine smiled and waved his hand. Instantly, lights appeared in the sky, and a few silhouettes appeared there. Behind them was the Ganji's time godly forbidden territory. All the leaders' expressions changed drastically. You took Chu Chunqiu to the supreme animal world? How can we be sure it's him? I'm not sure, but anyway, now Chu Chunqiu has nothing to do with the fortune shrine anymore. The 9 others are here, so do as you wish. But no matter what you do, if you touch our disciples, the same thing will happen to your disciples, replied the leader of the fortune shrine calmly. The leaders grunted coldly and stared at Lin Feng and the others. Ganji's time, godly forbidden territory, what kind of place is that? Wondered Lin Feng. The fortune shrine had paid the price to prepare that plan and convinced the shrine's leaders that Chu Chunqiu was the one who had made the destiny wheel rotate. That way, they would pay attention to Chu Chunqiu and Lin Feng would be able to become stronger in peace. But as before, he had to be vigilant and remain discreet. The more he displayed his strength, the more people would doubt. At that moment, something happened in Lin Feng's mind. In his consciousness, he saw a flatland materialize. In the air was a fire mountain. The leader of the fire mountain was there, his eyes filled with flames. Lin Feng's soul trembled. Kneel down, shouted the leader of the fire shrine angrily. Lin Feng's face stiffened, and his legs shook. However, he steadfastly stood his ground. He was just staring at the man coldly. The shrine's leaders are terrifyingly strong. One glance and they can make you submit, thought Lin Feng. This man could crush his soul and will. The leader of the fire shrine looked at him disdainfully. Lin Feng lowered his head submissively. Lin Feng heard some grunt coldly in his mind. Flames flew throughout his soul. Leader, said another voice at that moment. The leader of the fire shrine looked at his disciple, startled. If you inspect their memories, I do the same. If you find some skills and techniques you weren't supposed to find, you can't blame us if anything happens, said the leader of the fortune shrine coldly. The leader of the fire shrine grunted coldly, but he still stopped. Lin Feng's inner body, however, was still burning. It felt like his soul was burning. The leader of the fire shrine looked at him coldly and said, "Reply and tell the truth." Chapter 22:19. Leaving before the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds, Where were you? Asked the leader of the fire shrine of Lin Feng, making his soul tremble. Dark Night region, replied Lin Feng calmly. I'm from the Dark Night region, but I grew up in a small world. When I was around 20, I came to the greater world. There are many strong cultivators in the greater world. So I practiced really hard and took many risks. Now, I've been practicing cultivation for 40 years, and I finally made it in the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. The leader of the fortune shrine was staring at Lin Feng. 40 years to reach the top of the Huangqi layer was a very long time. Lin Feng wasn't really talented enough. However, he was from a small world, so it wasn't bad. Even though he didn't practice cultivation quickly, he was determined. Could the forbidden person possibly be Lin Feng? What skills and techniques do you practice? What kind of spirit do you have? Asked the leader again. Lin Feng frowned. He knew that person could see many things. Lin Feng had to be clear and precise. I study different kinds of skills and techniques. In the small world, skills and techniques were really bad. I obtained some demon skills and techniques. I also study the Kulpa Indestructible Devamara skill all the time. I have a powerful physical strength. At the same level, I almost always have the advantage. Apart from demon cultivation, I also studied deployment spells from books. My cultivation is a bit complex, replied Lin Feng honestly. He didn't tell the most important things about himself, naturally. Insolent! Shouted that person explosively. Thunder shook his soul, blood appeared on his face and his face paled. You're saying a stupid skill like the Kulpa Indestructible Devamara skill could help you have a powerful physical body? I went to the Milky Way battlefield in Hell, and I've killed extremely strong demon cultivators from the ancient demon clan. I obtained some nice spells from them, including the Devamara body cleansing technique. It also helps me improve my physical strength, replied Lin Feng coldly. At his cultivation level, Shrine's leaders were like gods to him. He couldn't say anything against them. He was too weak to do anything, and this guy was oppressing him. Lin Feng was a nobody in front of such people. Lin Feng kept calm for now, but someday, he'd come back as an extremely strong cultivator and would settle accounts. Besides, by a lucky coincidence, in Qitian Holy Town in the Dark Night region, I fought against many people from the different dynasties and I obtained some saints' techniques, Lin Feng went on. The leader of the fire shrine was looking at Lin Feng disdainfully. He was thinking that this kid guy was determined and talented, but his cultivation speed wasn't fast enough. He was just lucky. He thought Lin Feng was less likely to be the one who had activated the destiny wheel. The other leaders didn't let the others off either, even if the fortune shrine had taken Chu Chunqiu to the supreme animal world. After some time, the leader of the fire shrine grunted coldly. A terrifying fire surrounded Lin Feng and the air shook. Lin Feng had the impression he was in an ocean of painful flames. A terrifying strength made him tremble. Fire appeared in his mind again. The leader of the fire shrine could kill Lin Feng instantly if he wished. Lin Feng was driven violently back, still surrounded by fire. He could die anytime. The others were also being oppressed by the other leaders. The leader of the fortune shrine jumped in front of the enemy's disciples. Beams of light appeared and he attacked their souls. Someone gave out a horrible shriek. "A life for a life," said the leader of the fortune shrine coldly. He didn't pay attention to Lin Feng and the others, but he was ready to kill the enemy's disciples mercilessly if anything happened. "Humph," someone groaned coldly. One of the leaders rose up into the air and said, "Dear friend, we'll see how long he'll stay in the supreme animal world." The leaders rose up into the air, not killing Lin Feng and the others. As the diviner had said to Lin Feng, they'd try, but they probably wouldn't kill. They couldn't be sure if one of them had caused the wheel to rotate. To the fortune shrine, it was a dangerous bet, but it had worked. The disciples they had brought with them were core disciples in their shrines. They didn't want to lose them stupidly. Of course, it didn't mean they trusted the fortune shrine. They had also been watching the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds, and they were also going to watch Chu Chunqiu. "See you," said the leaders of the shrines coldly, and then they left with their disciples. The leader of the fortune shrine watched them leave and after a long time, he took a deep breath, turning around and saying to the group, "I'm sorry, you just joined the fortune shrine and you already have to face danger." Everybody bowed before him. They had heard the old stories, so they couldn't blame the fortune shrine. They respected the fortune shrine, especially since the leader respected them. But they were wondering whether Chu Chunqiu was really the forbidden person or not. Nobody could be sure. Kong Ming glanced at Lin Feng. Back then in the small world, the diviner had chosen Lin Feng. Did it mean anything? The other people left. In the starlit sky, the qi was dense and thick, so Lin Feng decided to practice cultivation here. The diviner appeared and said to Lin Feng, "The shrines won't give up. I'll take you away. You can leave a clone here in the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds. Sometimes, you can walk around so people will think you're still there. Use your real body to break through to the Diqi layer and then come back. As a great emperor, your social status will be different. What do you think?" asked the diviner. "All right, I think it's a good plan," Lin Feng nodded. He would need to break through to the Diqi layer, and then he'd come back. He needed to become a great emperor to oppress the Snow Clan and the shrines. He was in a rush and couldn't waste time. He was going to travel the world to become stronger. "Where will you go first?" asked the diviner, pointing at the different stars. "Continent of the 9 clouds, hell, many small worlds. Where do you want to go?" "Hell," said Lin Feng without hesitation. He wanted to avenge Minster Uptala and Qing Qing. "If you go to hell, you'll end up in the Milky Way battlefield first. From there, you'll be able to go to hell or to the continent of the 9 clouds," replied the diviner. "All right." Lin Feng nodded. As expected, the Milky Way battlefield. Back then, the one who had an innate king-type body had descended from the sky. Lin Feng remembered him. He was arrogant and wild. That guy was probably from the Supreme Animal World, as the Supreme Animal World also had passages to every realm in the world. "When are you going to leave?" asked the diviner. "In a few days, teacher," replied Lin Feng. "All right, enjoy practicing cultivation in the fortune shrine," the diviner nodded. "I'm off. You choose your own path. The fortune shrine supports you." "I understand." Lin Feng nodded. He watched the diviner leave before he closed his eyes and went into his spirit's world. In front of him was a giant, his qi terrifying. It was Saint Qin Shan, his consciousness growing larger all the time. Regarding Minster Uptala and Qing Qing, Lin Feng intended to avenge them. After all, Saint Qin Shan was different. He would need lots of time to recover. But they were different. One drop of medicine and they would recover completely. That qi is incredible. Saint Qin Shan's consciousness is improving. We'll be able to fuse together and fight at some point. After hell, I'll go to the Dark Night region to get the rebirth scriptures. Then I'll travel the world and continue focusing on cultivation and becoming stronger, thought Lin Feng. His goal in life was to become a peerless cultivator. Chapter 2220. Back into the Milky Way battlefield. In the celestial country's Milky Way battlefield, people were still fighting unceasingly. Corpses were still falling into the yellow springs, which accepted them eagerly. The battles there were cruel. In that place, battles never stopped and never had. In the yellow springs, there were billions and billions of corpses. Deep inside the Milky Way battlefield, there were 2 men and 2 women. They were encircled and pulling long faces. 5 people were surrounding them, their demon qi shuring. The 5 looked at them as if they had cornered their prey. Their physical strength is terrifying. One of them is so strong physically that spells are useless against him, and he also understands Tao. "What can we do?" asked a woman to the 2 men next to her telepathically. Her face was deathly pale. However, at that moment, the 2 men also pulled long faces. They felt powerless. "I wouldn't have thought that the situation would be like this right after arriving. We were too careless and confident. We came to the Milky Way battlefield, and these people dared come from the other side. They are extremely strong," said another woman. Her qi was weak and trembling. She was very talented. She didn't want to die here. Her name was already on the Celestial Champion ranking list at university. A bright future awaited her. "No solution. We can only fight our way through," said a young man coldly. The four of them nodded and charged at full speed. The 5 demon cultivators suddenly punched out in their direction with a sound like thunder. The 4 people used spells to block the attacks. The demon cultivators wanted to kill them. The demon cultivators hadn't said a word. The first and most dazzling cultivator of the ancient demon clan, Juzi, had died, and many people thought that the ancient demon clan was weakening. But now the ancient demon clan was actually becoming stronger and stronger. They had more and more powerful demon cultivators. Many of their descendants were even more talented than their fathers. The ancient demon clan was rising again. At that moment, Qi began to roll through the Milky Way. The strong cultivators of the ancient demon clan raised their heads together and looked at the sky. Death strength surged and descended from the sky. Some precious items are falling from the sky, the ancient demon clan cultivators thought. They frowned, their pitch-black eyes twinkling. A pitch-black death mountain descended from the sky and diffused death Dao power into the air slowly. Mark of the path? The crowd frowned. The members of the ancient demon clan forgot about the 4 people. They were staring at the mountain descending from the sky. 2 cultivators rose up into the air and headed towards the ancient mountain. They punched out in the direction of the mountain. There was a thunderous crack, and the death mountain broke apart. Someone wearing a pitch-black cape appeared from within it. He looked like a demon king ready to conquer all, and his death intent was terrifying. Lin Feng glanced around and saw many people. He didn't care, though he just sighed. The battlefield was a mysterious place. It contained many treasures which descended from the sky. Shrines threw things away which were considered precious treasures here. Lin Feng's black robe fluttered in the wind. He looked in the direction of hell and got ready to head there. At that moment he heard someone shout out. Lin Feng frowned and saw that a woman was staring at him. She looked at him with great respect. "Brother Lin Feng," said that woman. Lin Feng looked like a demon king, but she still recognized him. It was because the statue looked like him. Many people in the holy city kept talking about him and his achievements. He was the strongest emperor of the continent of the 9 clouds. "It's indeed Brother Lin Feng." The man next to her was astonished. His heart started pounding. Before the opening of the celestial country, he had seen Lin Feng's statue in Champion University. Many people studied at Champion University and admired Lin Feng, the strongest emperor of the continent of the 9 clouds. And now in the celestial country, they amazingly saw him for real. He was there and had descended from the sky. He looked confident and at ease. The strong cultivators of the ancient demon clan were surprised. They released their qi. The 4 people they had attacked called that guy brother and looked at him with respect and admiration. He was much stronger than they were. "Die," said one of the strong cultivators of the ancient demon clan. One of them punched out in Lin Feng's direction. He was very strong, as strong as the people of the ancient demon clan Lin Feng had bumped into back in the days, and they controlled Dao strength too. In the celestial country, such people were considered extremely strong. Lin Feng looked at him. Intent emerged from his eyes and corroded his opponent's will. A terrifying death strength shook his opponent's mind. The strong cultivators of the ancient demon clan suddenly looked frightened. They could sense that Lin Feng was extremely strong. Lin Feng raised his fist. A terrifying strength emerged and crashed onto his opponent's body. Lin Feng was much stronger than he was back when he had been in the Milky Way battlefield before. He now belonged to another world. If Juzi had appeared in front of him, Lin Feng could slap him and kill him instantly. Juzi was a disciple of a shrine, but he wasn't a core disciple. Lin Feng was the strongest emperor of the continent of the 9 clouds. Only core disciples of the shrines could compete with him now. How strong! The 4 people were stunned when they saw that. "Brother Lin Feng," said another girl. She was astonished. Was that really the strongest emperor of the continent of the 9 clouds? "Escape!" shouted the strong cultivators of the ancient demon clan. They punched out in Lin Feng's direction again, but Lin Feng punched the attacker without the least hesitation. There were cracks of breaking bone, and that person's head immediately exploded, his body falling down into the yellow springs. "Let's go!" cried the ancient demon clan cultivators. Their faces were all pale. Lin Feng turned to another one and released death strength. That person's soul immediately exploded, and his body fell down into the yellow springs as well. Lin Feng continued walking and punching the demon clansmen. Quickly, they were all dead, and their corpses vanished into the yellow springs. The young people of Champion University gulped down in astonishment. Lin Feng was much stronger than them. He truly belonged to a different world. Brother Lin Feng, he's so strong. The two women's hearts were pounding. How magnificent! The Milky Way battlefield is dangerous. Don't go to the depths of the battlefield, Lin Feng said to those people, before disappearing from their field of vision. Can Lin Feng stay alone in here? Those people wondered. Lin Feng crossed the Milky Way battlefield. When he arrived on the side of hell, a light appeared above his head. Umph! The strong cultivators of hell grunted coldly when they saw him. He was an invader, since he had a light above his head. Someone glared at Lin Feng, but Lin Feng looked back at him. Death strength emerged from his eyes and crushed that person's soul. His corpse fell down into the yellow springs. Many people were astonished when they saw that, and released death chi. Lin Feng released sword strength. Two people looked at him. A death sword streaked across the sky and he killed them instantly. At the same time, he released a river made of death energies and killed everybody in his way. Piss off, said Lin Feng. Instantly, many people around him suddenly stopped moving, their faces stiff with terror. Chapter 22-21 Mountain of Corpses on the Vast Milky Way Battlefield. Lin Feng's appearance didn't astonish people too much. People were just surprised to see so many people die fighting against Lin Feng. Most people just sighed. Another terrifying killer. Someone stood in the air and shivered. He looked after the demon lights which had disappeared. He stared at Lin Feng. A group of people from hell died against Lin Feng. How strong was he? He was just at the top of the Huangqi layer, but he was already so strong. No matter how strong his opponents were, one strike and he managed to crush his enemies. Nobody could stop him. Even an army couldn't stop him. How could he be so strong? At that moment, Lin Feng continued moving. Around him, death intent rolled in waves. He looked like a demon, his eyes filled with demon energies. Some people continued moving towards him to kill him, but were slaughtered instead. Nobody could stop him. 7 days later, Lin Feng was standing at the top of a mountain and gazing into the distance. He wouldn't have thought that he would be so unlucky. The celestial country had just opened. He needed to wait for almost a year to get out. He sat down cross-legged and closed his eyes. The air began to hum quietly. When a passing person saw the light above Lin Feng's head, he was stupefied. This guy was so audacious. He was from the other side and he dared stay there as if nothing had happened? On top of that, he was seated cross-legged. He probably considered everybody and everything beneath his notice. How arrogant! However, many people saw all the corpses around him and didn't get any closer. He was probably extremely strong. More and more people appeared there and gathered around Lin Feng. They wanted to kill him. They felt ashamed because he had come from the other side, and he had killed so many of their people. Kill him, said someone coldly. Everybody, let's attack him together, proposed some people. They headed towards the top of the mountain. Lin Feng suddenly opened his eyes. Some horrible shrieks spread through the air. Death and cursing strength surged around him and crushed some people. Lin Feng could kill those people in the blink of an eye. The crowd was astonished. They screamed out, "Die!" Lin Feng looked expressionless, his eyes filled with death chi. There were 10,000 death imprints around him. His death chi surged out in all directions and carried everything away. People who were in the way all died instantly. His death chi was horrifyingly powerful. Those who were still alive were terrified when they saw all those people die instantly. Lin Feng slowly stood up. His black robe fluttered in the wind. At that moment, it seemed like the world belonged to him. He jumped forwards and the ground trembled. After a short time, he came back to the top of the mountain, only countless corpses left all around him. However, nothing stopped. People continued coming in from the distance. 3 months later, on and around the mountain, it smelled like death. So many people had died there. Half a year later, around the mountain, no grass could grow anymore. There was only death chi. 10 months later, at the top of the mountain, everything was dead. People who were a bit weak could not even get close, or they died because of the death chi. People who were strong couldn't come in either, because the death chi was too powerful. That place became a forbidden area. Nobody dared come there anymore. Most people were now getting ready to go back to hell. People gathered there and looked in the direction of the forbidden mountain. I've heard that a terrifyingly strong cultivator of the top of the Huangqi layer is there, and that nobody can go there because nobody can withstand a single attack. There are endless corpses there, and they have already turned into a mountain. I've heard that he's from the other side. He looks like a conquering hero. Nobody can get close to him or they die. He must have a terrifying death-type item if his death energy is powerful. How could an emperor be that strong? Said someone. You can go and check, said someone mockingly. The forbidden area had become legendary. Thankfully, the passage of the celestial country was going to open again. The terrifying amount of death intent disappeared abruptly. The crowd was stupefied. What was going on? The forbidden area had disappeared? The death intent has been recalled. When the crowd saw the death chi disappear, their hearts started pounding. They shot forwards, however, as they moved forwards, mountains of corpses appeared in front of them. The corpses were intact, but the people were dead. They probably all have incredible treasures, whispered the crowd, trembling. Who had done this? Finally, the death chi completely disappeared. They could see someone at the top of a mountain. There were still pale death lights around him. His death chi could still kill people. That death chi has reached the peak of perfection at that cultivation level, someone pointed out. For an emperor, such a terrifying Tao was incredible. Indeed, no wonder he killed so many people. If we fought against him, we'd die. Everybody was afraid of Lin Feng. There was a Holy Spirit in front of Lin Feng, and he looked satisfied. This is a great Holy Spirit. It's strong and can use the strength of the earth and sky. It's much better than ordinary great imperial weapons. Back then, the Holy Spirit dynasty's saint could form 33,000 small Holy Spirits and 137 great Holy Spirits. It was probably terrifying to see that, mused Lin Feng. He waved his hands and the Holy Spirit disappeared. At the same time, he stood up and glanced around. The passage to hell was going to open soon. Lin Feng headed towards the crowd. People moved aside and let him pass without attacking him. He was like a death god at this time. They didn't dare offend him. He was from the other side, but the question was, how did he control death strength so well? His death strength had reached the peak of perfection. Was he going to hell? When Lin Feng was finally far away, people went insane and started looting the corpses. They all had incredible precious treasures on them. However, Lin Feng didn't care about them. He was the first emperor of the continent of the 9 clouds. He had become member in a shrine. The other shrines had oppressed him. He had gone through so much. What he needed now was real strength. He stood at the exit. His black robe fluttered in the wind. Nobody dared get close. He had killed too many people already. Some people hadn't even gotten close to him and had died anyway. He was glaring like a tiger eyeing its prey. The people from hell didn't provoke him. A few people unwisely got angry and felt humiliated. They approached him, but died instantly. What kind of a monster is that? People sighed. How terrifying. Everybody wanted to get far away from Lin Feng. Lin Feng was calmly waiting to go back to hell. When the passage opened, Lin Feng turned into a beam of light and went back through. He appeared in a gigantic valley, but he continued moving at top speed. Very quickly, he appeared at the top of a mountain and stopped. He took a deep breath and put on his illusionary cloak. Instantly his chi, face and body changed. Hell! Lin Feng flew in the direction of the great imperial Song City. Chapter 22:22 Resuscitation at the Great Imperial Song City? Outside of the gates, people were always fighting. Those who managed to win 100 battles were considered heroes and could get inside. They were then allowed to become members of the inner part of the city, where they obtained more resources to practice. The battle stage at the gate of the city outside was a symbol. Of course, winning 100 times wasn't easy. 2 people were seated in the bleachers and watching the battles. Not far from them, 2 people were looking at them respectfully because they were ministers who controlled a part of hell. One of them was Minister Kalasutra. Next to Minister Kalasutra was his daughter, Qin Yao. Qin Yao was already a high-level emperor, looking valiant and heroic. Her chi was extraordinary. She didn't look as proud as in the past, and seemed even more beautiful that way. Do you think some people can compete with you on the battle stage of the high-level emperors? Asked Minister Kalasutra, smiling at Qin Yao. Maybe, replied Qin Yao nodding. However, she looked absent-minded and preoccupied. Her father had been busy and had come back to spend some time with her and watch battles. She didn't know why, but she kept thinking about that man. Back then, when he was only a low-level emperor, he had won 100 times. She had thought she was strong, but after a short time, she had realized he was so strong that she couldn't catch up with him anymore. The distance between them had continued increasing. If he hadn't been there, she would have died in the battlefield of the celestial country. What are you thinking about? Asked Minister Kalasutra when he saw that his daughter looked preoccupied. Father, do you remember Minister Uptala and Qin Qing? Asked Qin Yao. Minister Kalasutra was surprised and nodded. Of course I do. Poor Uptala. Qin Yao, Wang Shao doesn't want people to talk about them anymore, so don't. I know. But back then, Lin Feng didn't die. How strong is he now? Qin Yao wondered calmly. Minister Uptala was surprised. Back then, Minister Uptala had turned into a blue Uptala lotus to protect Lin Feng and Qin Qing. Lin Feng was really strong. Qin Yao had told him about the battles in the celestial country. Lin Feng was terrifyingly strong. At the same cultivation level, few people could compete with him. Besides, he had incredible comprehensive abilities, murmured Minister Kalasutra. He remembered Lin Feng perfectly. In a room not far from the city, in front of Lin Feng was a blue Uptala lotus with a dimly discernible chi. It contained the strength of the 10,000 things of creation. Inside the blue Uptala lotus was a frozen young woman. She looked beautiful and pure. Lin Feng was holding 2 small bottles which contained some life chi. But the bottles were firmly closed, so no chi came out of them. Qing Qing, said Lin Feng, looking at the frozen young woman. He waved his hands and released fire and life strength. Ice began to break and snap. Fire containing life strength filled the air as the ice melted rapidly. Qing Qing's body appeared quickly. Life, said Lin Feng. Life strength penetrated into her body. At the same time, he broke a bottle and poured a drop on Qing Qing's body. Her body absorbed the medicine. Beautiful pure lights quickly surrounded her body. Godly medicine of the immortals. Even though Lin Feng knew that Qing Qing was going to be fine, he was nervous. Lights surrounded her as the strength penetrated into her body thoroughly. Even if she had only one last thread of consciousness left, that medicine would heal her, so Qing Qing was going to be fine. Lights and chi floated around her. Very quickly, her cheeks became pink again. When Lin Feng saw that, he smiled. She was going to be fine. Then, he broke the other bottle and poured medicine on the blue Uptala lotus on which Qing Qing was laying. The same thing happened, life strength surging out to surround the flower. Lin Feng stood there, a bit nervous. Qing Qing's hair bristled, and Lin Feng shivered. She slowly opened her beautiful eyes, looking confused. Wasn't she dead? She looked pure, innocent, and beautiful. When she saw Lin Feng, she shivered. Lin Feng, she said. She looked confused. Am I dreaming? Lin Feng shook his head, bent down and smiled broadly. Qing Qing, you're fine now. Have you completely recovered? Qing Qing moved. Life chi filled the air. She felt fine. After that, she looked at the blue Uptala lotus on which she was sitting. That's my father's chi. She suddenly looked scared and her cheeks became white again. Lin Feng is my father. He will recover too. I gave him godly medicine of the immortals as well, replied Lin Feng. Qing Qing was astonished. Godly medicine of the immortals? She got up and caressed the blue Uptala lotus. Her eyes twinkled. A silhouette was gradually appearing around the blue Uptala lotus. Ching Ching, an ethereal voice spoke out. Ching Ching's heart started pounding. She looked at the silhouette and said, "Father, I thought I'd never seen you again." "Thank you very much, Lin Feng," said Minister Uptala looking at Lin Feng. "I'll never be able to pay you back for the medicine you gave Ching Ching and me." Ching Ching was astonished. Her father was Minister Uptala. He was a celestial emperor and he was saying he couldn't pay Lin Feng back for that medicine? It meant that Lin Feng had paid a terrifying price to save her father and her. She felt as if she had died and come back to life. However, Lin Feng had saved her. She had recovered, and so had her father. "Uncle Uptala, how could you compare your lives and something material? Material can be bought. A life can't," Lin Feng smiled. "Besides, nothing would have ever happened to you if I hadn't been there. It was my fault. I had to do something for you. How could I blame you?" Chapter 22-23, 100 Victories. The crowd was astonished when they saw the battle. Initially, Minister Kalasutra and Qin Yao wanted to leave, but suddenly, they were excited. "Father, you were right, that guy is extremely strong," exclaimed Qin Yao, staring at the young man on the battle stage. Even though she didn't consider herself quite strong, she could have defeated the middle-aged man with the 23 victories, too. However, that young man had defeated him easily, he hadn't even need to move. The challengers understood that as well. Therefore, after the young man won his first battle, nobody challenged him for a while. The young man was naturally Lin Feng. At that moment, he didn't know where Wang Xiao was, so he had to be admitted into the city by winning 100 times. Someone else finally walked onto the battle stage. That person looked at Lin Feng, whose eyes were closed, so he became angry. Lin Feng disdained the other fighters? "Please, let's exchange views on cultivation," said that person coldly. Lin Feng suddenly opened his eyes. Pitch-black death intent moved into his opponent's eyes. That person's life was quickly corroded, and he started hallucinating. He could really die. He understood why the previous fighter had left the battle stage willingly. "Get down," said Lin Feng. His opponent looked glum, but Lin Feng's death voice resonated in his skull. He turned around and left the battle stage, just like the previous fighter. Phew! Many people in the crowd swallowed and took deep breaths. What a strange and mysterious fighter. One glance, a few words, and people left the battle stage willingly. The same thing happened during the third battle. But some extremely strong cultivators wanted to try, mostly because Lin Feng didn't resort to terrifying and explosive attacks to fight. So, how did he win so easily? However, his method worked, and his number of victories increased quickly. His death Dao has already reached a certain level. "It might be extremely powerful even," said Minister Kalasutra as he watched Lin Feng. Because of Lin Feng, they hadn't left. 28 victories already and people keep losing because of a single glance? Qin Yao's face stiffened. She was extremely strong, and she had hellfire. Her attacks were explosive and she also understood Dao intent. But this guy seemed to be so strong, as if they were not even worth mentioning in the same sentence. Emo Shang is going onto the battle stage. Emo Shang is extremely strong, and his death Dao is formidable. This battle is going to be brilliant. Emo Shang. When Qin Yao saw Emo Shang, she shook her head. Emo Shang was only as strong as her. Even if he was extremely strong, he couldn't defeat that young man, but he probably wouldn't be defeated by a simple glance, either. "Your death Dao is not bad," said Emo Shang, staring at Lin Feng. "I also control death Dao. Therefore let's fight." "Your death Dao is useless against me." After that, suddenly, terrifying death lights emerged from Lin Feng's eyes and bombarded Emo Shang's eyes. Emo Shang's soul started trembling. He sensed death intent penetrate into his body, and his face turned gray. Lin Feng jumped forwards and landed in front of Emo Shang, staring at him. "Ah!" Emo Shang shrieked, and fell down backwards onto his arse. He was terrified. When the crowd saw that, they swallowed. Emo Shang pulled a long face. He didn't dare look at Lin Feng again. He turned around, crawled to the edge of the battle stage, and jumped off it. "I underestimated him. He's much stronger than I thought," said Minister Kalasutra, quietly astonished. His Death Dao has already reached the top of the first phase in terms of Dao strength. Among cultivators at the very top of the Huang Qi layer, people who don't have a very advanced understanding of Dao strength can't compete with him. Yes, agreed Qin Yao. She remembered someone, especially the last time she had seen him. He looked like a death god and he could release rivers made of death energy which could sweep anything away. He had killed so many people. Back then, even high-level emperors couldn't withstand a single attack from him. And now on the battle stage, there was a guy whose Death Dao was equally terrifying. He didn't even need to move to defeat his opponents. He could even kill them easily if he wanted. The fights continued. 50, 60, 90 victories. From the beginning to the end, the young man hadn't needed to fight at all. He glanced at his opponents and defeated them. The crowd was astonished. Some extremely strong cultivators came out of the great imperial Song city. That's Minister Enuo and Minister Azura. Minister Azura is an assassin and a demon king. He's one of the most terrifying ministers of the great imperial Song city. What is he doing here? When the crowd saw the ministers, they were startled, and their hearts started pounding. The young man on the battle stage was too strong, so he had drawn the attention of those people? Many people had won 100 battles and those ministers had never come out because of that. Maybe there weren't too many emperors who were so strong in hell. Minister Azura released blood chi, his hair turning red. Similar to the man on the stage, he could also look at people and at first glance, he could defeat people. At that moment, he was standing there with his hands clasped behind his back, calmly watching the fights. There were several other ministers next to him, all of them terrifyingly strong. Minister Kalasutra was surprised. What were those guys doing here? Lin Feng couldn't help but glance at the bleachers. He smiled coldly on the inside. He didn't mind drawing some attention, because after killing Wang Xiao, he'd try to leave hell through the great imperial Song city. The celestial country's passage was already closed. Without using special spells or power, he'd need to wait for another year to leave. If he did wait, then he would have wasted 2 years stupidly. He had just come to hell to kill Wang Xiao and help Minister Uptala. It would have repercussions, but he'd be able to solve all those problems later after becoming extremely strong. The fights ended quickly each time. In the blink of an eye, Lin Feng had won 97 battles. Nobody could defeat him. Avicii, you go, ordered Minister Azura indifferently. Someone jumped onto the battle stage and instantly released a terrifying death blood chi. From his expression, one had the impression he could kill Lin Feng easily. That's Avicii, he's Minister Azura's disciple. He's very talented and will replace Minister Azura in the future. Avicii, I've heard that he almost passed the exam of the Hell Shrine. He's really strong. He controls Avicii Hell Dao. He can drive people into the abysses of the Avicii and kill them. Lin Feng glanced his opponent, a strong cultivator, this time. Surprisingly, Avicii is getting involved. That guy's victory spree is going to come to an end, even if he's extremely strong. Even though the crowd found Lin Feng terrifying, they knew that Avicii had almost become a member of a shrine. He was extremely strong. Probably only a few emperors in the great imperial Song city could compete with him. Avicii was staring at Lin Feng. A terrifying amount of Dao intent drove towards Lin Feng. Lin Feng had the impression he was falling into a terrifying and sanguinary cage of hell. The Dao power tried to pierce through his skin. Lin Feng was surprised. He released death imprints around himself and took some steps forwards. His eyes were still filled with death strength, and he was staring at his opponent. Die! Shouted Avicii coldly. Avicii's red Avicii hell strength turned into terrifying energies which shook Lin Feng's soul. However, Lin Feng just grunted coldly and millions of threads of death strength appeared around him. They turned into a black death dragon and shot towards his opponent. Avicii grunted coldly and continued releasing energies. He formed a cross with his hands, and a red cross appeared in front of him. Thunder rumbled, the earth and sky trembled. It was a terrifying collision. How strong! But Avicii will win. The crowd believed. However, they saw Lin Feng punch out, and the red energies were cut in two. Lin Feng jumped into the newly created path. Death strength moved towards his opponent. Avicii also jumped into his own red energies. When he saw Lin Feng's death energies surging towards him, the path Lin Feng had opened turned into an Avicii hell again. "Piss off," said Lin Feng coldly. Millions of death strength lights kept appearing. Avicii moved both hands continuously. Red crosses kept blocking off the death strength. Chapter 22-24. Killing Wang Xiao. Minister Azura studied Lin Feng calmly, but inside he was astonished. This guy was terrifyingly strong, and his Dao power was astonishing. Maybe it hadn't only reached the first phase, maybe it had already reached its peak. He was only an emperor and his Dao power was so terrifying. How strong would it be if he became a great emperor? There were several ministers in the bleachers already. They were all amazed. Lin Feng was extremely talented. "What's your name?" Minister Azura asked. "Lin Feng." Lin Feng. When Minister Kalasutra, Qin Yao and the others heard that, they were astonished, and Wang Xiao looked at him coldly. But then he controlled himself. This couldn't be the Lin Feng he knew. They had a different chi and a different face. They were completely different. "It's not him," thought Qin Yao, a touch sadly. "Lin Feng, are you interested in joining the Azura army? I can recruit you as a disciple," said Minister Azura to Lin Feng calmly. Everybody was impressed. Minister Azura was one of the strongest ministers of the great imperial Song City, and he wanted to recruit Lin Feng as a disciple. It meant Lin Feng was extremely strong and talented. Lin Feng was more than strong enough to join the Azura army. "Minister, is there a way to go to the continent of the 9 clouds from the inner part of the great imperial Song City?" asked Lin Feng calmly. Minister Azura's social position was higher than Wang Zhao's. Minister Azura was surprised. "Continent of the 9 clouds? Who is this guy?" "What do you mean?" asked Minister Azura. He frowned. "Nothing. I already have a teacher, and I'm not interested in going to the great imperial Song City. I came here because I was looking for Wang Xiao," said Lin Feng, looking at Wang Xiao. Wang Xiao was astonished and his expression became weird. This guy was called Lin Feng and he had come for him? "Someone whose name is the same as me is looking for you. If you want to see him, you can come with me," said Lin Feng calmly. Then he turned around and started walking away. He wasn't interested in going to the great imperial Song City at all. Wang Zhao's face stiffened. Someone who had the same name as him was looking for him? Qin Yao and Minister Kalasutra's face was also funny. Was that Lin Feng? "Have the army come with me," said Wang Xiao to someone telepathically, as he followed after Lin Feng. Was an emperor trying to deceive him? "Lin Feng, you killed my son Wang Zhua, and you dared come back? You really want to die," said Wang Xiao coldly. Minister Uptala had turned into a blue Uptala lotus, been injured, and then Lin Feng had taken him away. Wang Xiao had looked for Lin Feng everywhere, but hadn't found him. Now, surprisingly, Lin Feng was back. "Let's follow and watch," said Minister Kalasutra to Qin Yao, and they trailed after Lin Feng. Minister Azura was interested and also followed. A whole group of people ended up following Lin Feng. "Let's go," said many people, curious now. Lin Feng had come back for Wang Xiao? What did he want? Lin Feng didn't walk too far and stopped to enter a courtyard. Wang Xiao stopped in the air and stared at Lin Feng. After a few minutes, the door creaked and a few people came out. Wang Xiao was stunned. "How is this possible?" said Wang Xiao coldly. He couldn't believe it his eyes. Those people were dead. How was this possible? "Uptala," said Wang Xiao coldly. Minister Uptala had transformed into a blue Uptala lotus. That change was irreversible. How could he be standing here now? Finally, Wang Xiao looked at Lin Feng coldly and said, "Was it you a moment before?" "Wang Xiao, welcome to Fortune City," said Lin Feng with a smile. An illusion appeared and turned into a vast castle. The illusion surrounded Wang Xiao and the others. "This is Empty Space Castle." Wang Xiao was staring at the empty space castle. Fortune City? Wang Xiao wasn't the only one who was astonished. Minister Uptala and Qing Qing's hearts were pounding too. That Fortune City was a precious item? What was going on? They had come back to life thanks to godly medicine of the immortals. Then Lin Feng had changed his face and chi, and now he could summon Fortune City's empty space castles? Was this a terrifying great imperial weapon? In the outside world, Minister Kalasutra and the others arrived just behind them. However, they just saw an illusionary empty space. It was a deployment spell. What a formidable illusion item. What's going on inside? Who's in there? Minister Azura arrived and was astonished too. He was worried for Wang Xiao. Not long after, an army arrived. The leader of the group was astonished when he saw that and said to Minister Azura, "Minister Azura, should we attack?" Minister Azura glanced at them and said nothing. He didn't like Wang Xiao. Even though Wang Xiao was an heir in the great imperial Song City, Minister Azura didn't have anything to do with that. If Wang Xiao died, it wasn't Minister Azura's problem. That Lin Feng had dared take Wang Xiao inside there and had a terrifying treasure, he wasn't ordinary. "Let's go," said the leader of the army when he saw that Minister Azura didn't ask them to attack. They released their energies and attacked the illusion. However, it was useless, they were way too weak. Besides, they couldn't see anything, everything they saw in the illusion was fake. Within the little Fortune City, Lin Feng faced Minister Uptala and said, "Uncle Uptala, this small Fortune City can only be broken by Saint Emperors. Nobody will disturb us here." This small Fortune City was like the plaited bamboo hat and the cloak, the diviner had given it to him. It was a powerful item Lin Feng could use to protect himself. People from outside didn't know what it was. Of course, if they knew what was inside, it wouldn't matter either. As the champion of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds, it was normal that Lin Feng had received such items. "Uncle Uptala, we can kill that guy, right?" said Lin Feng to Minister Uptala. Wang Xiao had been injured by Minister Uptala's blue Uptala lotus back in the day, and even though a great deal of time had passed, he hadn't really progressed. He was still weaker than before. Minister Uptala nodded and slowly walked forwards. Uptala Dao filled the air. Cosmic energies intertwined. In his hands, blue Uptala lotuses appeared. "Don't kill him completely. Leave him one last thread of chi," Lin Feng said coldly. Wang Xiao pulled a long face. He also released a terrifying chi. At this moment, it wasn't time to ask them how they had survived, it was time to fight. Their battle was as explosive as Lin Feng had expected. Wang Xiao hadn't progressed, and had actually become weaker. He could only rely on soul strength. Lin Feng released chi to protect Qin Qin. Even though Wang Xiao had become weaker, he could easily kill Qin Qin. Lin Feng had to shield her. Lin Feng also released the chi of the 10,000 things of creation. They intertwined and death chi appeared inside. The chi of the 10,000 things of creation completely turned into death. Millions of blue Uptala lotuses appeared and turned into sharp weapons. They all shot towards Wang Zhao's soul. His face turned deathly pale, his eyes were filled with murder. How could he die now? "Lin Feng," swore Wang Xiao coldly. Minister Uptala and Qin Qing had come back to life, he had saved them, and he had this Fortune City item. "Die." Wang Xiao released strength, bombarding Uptala and forcing him back before he shot towards Lin Feng. "Die!" shouted Wang Xiao explosively. Terrifying cosmic energies streaked across the sky after Lin Feng. Lin Feng released a death sword and destroyed the attack. A terrifying amount of death strength roared out from him. Millions of threads of death strength turned into sharp death spears, which shot towards Wang Xiao. How is this possible? Wang Zhao's expression changed drastically. What a powerful attack! How could a mere emperor carry out such a terrifying attack? Lin Feng's death strength could threaten him. "Sleep," said Lin Feng. Suddenly, his cosmic energies changed and turned into dream of life cosmic energies. Wang Xiao suddenly felt drowsy. The death strength also turned into terrifying dragons biting for him. "Piss off," shouted Wang Xiao furiously. He came back to his senses and released as much strength as he could. Rumbling sounds spread in the air. The spears broke apart. However, Wang Xiao felt weak, and right then a blue Uptala lotus penetrated into his body and bombarded his inner strength. Wang Xiao was already suffering too much and he said, "You need to find someone who can control an altar, There is a path which leads to the continent of the 9 clouds in the great imperial Song City. The high priest can do it. He is the second most powerful person after Great Emperor Song, and controls the school of Hades. But they almost never use it because people who know about the continent of the 9 clouds are extremely strong, talented, and usually they are Great Emperor Song's descendants. The others have to rely on themselves by passing the challenge of the celestial country. When Lin Feng heard that, he recalled his fire and looked at Minister Uptala. Minister Uptala nodded and said, "The high priest really has incredible privileges in the great imperial Song City." "What is the high priest's cultivation level?" Lin Feng asked Wang Shao coldly. Many years ago, he was already at the very top of the Xingdi layer. "I don't know whether he has already broken through or not," replied Wang Shao numbly. Hell was an independent world. It had been created by some terrifyingly strong cultivators in the ancient past. It wasn't connected to the continent of the 9 clouds, and had changed a lot with time. People from the continent of the 9 clouds don't really know about Hell, and people from Hell didn't really know the continent of the 9 clouds existed. With the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds, that was like 3 different worlds. Hell consisted of 10 worlds and a countless number of minor hells. Those hells were all controlled by the 10 cities, which meant that Hell was in the hands of the 10 Yama court's kings. Those people had to be terrifyingly strong. They were probably saint emperors at least, or maybe even saints. Since the high priest's position was just under one of the 10 Yama court's kings, he had to be extremely strong. Lin Feng, the strongest ministers of the great imperial Song City, are saint emperors at the top of the Xingdi layer. They are terrifyingly strong. Minister Azura is one of the 3 ministers. His strength is enigmatic and unfathomable. The high priest is the leader of all the ministers. "He's stronger than saint emperors, but he probably isn't a sage yet," said Minister Uptala. Lin Feng probably couldn't ask the high priest to help him, then. It would be too dangerous. "Almost a saint?" whispered Lin Feng, then he looked at Minister Uptala. "Uncle Uptala, do you want to come to the continent of the 9 clouds with me, or do you want to gather your army and go to another city?" If Minister Uptala and Qing Qing stayed in Hell, they'd be able to have a normal life in another city. Therefore, Lin Feng couldn't be sure without asking. "I don't intend to leave Hell for now. I just came back to life. I want to travel around and go to several hells. I want to become a saint emperor, and then I'll go and see the outside world," replied Minister Uptala. The Celestial Country Battlefield. There were many battles going on, and one battle was particularly explosive. One of the fighters was terrifying. "Yi Kei, you do it," said a beautiful woman at that moment. If people from Chi Tian Holy Town had been there, they would have been astonished, because that girl was the ancient Jade Dynasty's holy woman. "All right," nodded Yi Quebec. He released deployment spell energies and captured some people. They just hurt them, they didn't kill them. "Lei Dong Tian, be careful when you attack," the Holy Jade Princess warned an insane fighter. Lei Dong Tian was extremely strong. However, his attacks were too explosive. People had to be far away from him when he fought. Lin Feng had turned them all into perfect puppets. Lei Dong Tian glanced at the Holy Jade Princess coldly. She was so talkative. If Lin Feng hadn't given them orders, Lei Dong Tian would have killed her already. She pissed him off all the time. Ji Jiang was also fighting. After having been captured by Lin Feng, he had started becoming stronger and stronger, and was progressing extremely quickly. However, in front of the other puppets, he was still too weak. As for what they were doing, Lin Feng had given them the demon puppet technique. They could turn other people into demon puppets as well. The battles were non-stop. People on the battlefield were not surprised, because battles never stopped in that place. Lei Dong Tian Yi Kei, the Holy Jade Princess, all them were extremely strong, especially Lei Dong Tian. He had hoped to finish in the top 10 of the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. Nobody on the celestial country's battlefield could compete with him. That small army kept fighting and they kept growing stronger. As for Lin Feng, he had turned into Qin Shan and was with the high priest of Great Imperial Song City. The high priest was skinny and looked like an ordinary dying old man. Only his eyes showed how dangerous he was. but he was very polite to Qin Shan. He brought Lin Feng to a palace. Lin Feng had the impression that palace was the real palace of Hades. When you cross the door of the lowest depths of hell, the 18th hell, you can exit hell and you'll arrive in the continent of the 9 clouds. I'm not sure where you'll end up, however, said the high priest to Lin Feng. He looked at a flight of stairs. Lin Feng found the exit extremely mysterious. The priest didn't know where he would end up. Where am I going? Wondered Lin Feng. Qin Shan stepped on the flight of stairs and his silhouette became blurry. After a short time, Lin Feng crossed the door. There was death black water beyond. Without hesitation, Lin Feng jumped into it. He remembered when he had first come to hell from Jiuyu. He had jumped into black water as well. The black water rolled in low, oily waves. The sound of splashing was a jarring intrusion. A silhouette appeared in Jiuyu's forbidden area and came out of the black water. Chapter 22-27. Mortal life. After Lin Feng took everything away from Yangzhou City, many things had changed there. It was Xueyu's center, so people came to Yangzhou City because it was interesting in terms of history. The gigantic statue was a statue of Lin Feng. There were still large streets and small lanes in Yangzhou City. Lin Feng was considered a hero there. Even though Qing Meng Xian had become a Zun cultivator for a long time and was very strong, she wasn't proud. She knew that she was much weaker than that young man. Back in the day, they had both appeared on the battle stage of the great competition of Xueyu. However, after that she had realized how weak she was. Lin Feng, where are you now and what is your cultivation level? Whispered Qing Meng Xian. She was staring at Lin Feng's statue. Many people were watching her. Many men were in love with her. In the past, she used to be sexy, now she was just purely beautiful. At that moment, in the distance, 2 silhouettes appeared. One man and one woman. The man looked extremely strong and the woman looked beautiful. They got closer to the statue. It doesn't look like him at all, sniffed the woman, looking over the statue. She didn't look satisfied. Not bad, the man smiled. What? It doesn't look like him. It's so bad, said the woman. Even though the statue looked lifelike, she wasn't satisfied. It was because that statue was Lin Feng the way he looked in the past. He had changed afterwards. The young man smiled. Actually, he didn't think the statue really looked like him. His chi was different. The best sculptor of the empire carved that statue, Master Yi. He's a Zun cultivator, he's extremely strong, and you dare criticize his statue, said someone when they heard those two. How disrespectful. How conceited, said someone else, staring at the two. The young man smiled thinly. People were similar everywhere in the cultivation world. Qing Meng Xian heard a sound. She turned around and saw the two of them. She was surprised. A strong wind blew, and Qing Meng Xian appeared in front of the man and the woman. She stared at them. Qing Meng Xian doesn't like them either, snickered the crowd when they saw that. But the young man and the young woman just smiled at Qing Meng Xian. They looked quite composed. Qing Meng Xian suddenly remembered so many things. Lin Feng and Tang Yu were back. On top of that, she couldn't see their cultivation level. Even though they were smiling, she understood those two were already very, very far ahead of her. Yu is my wife, smiled Lin Feng. Qing Meng Xian was astonished. She smiled and said, "Congratulations." "Thank you," replied Lin Feng. He said, "I'm going to Yangzhou City to take a walk." "All right, should I come with you?" asked Qing Meng Xian. "No need. We're just taking a walk," said Lin Feng while shaking his head. Then they entered Yangzhou City. Qing Meng Xian turned and watched them. She took a deep breath. She was a Zun cultivator, but those two were, how strong were they? They already belonged to a different world. When the crowd saw that, they were astonished. Qing Meng Xian knew those two? "No, that young man looked familiar," said someone. "He looked way too familiar. I have the same feeling. As if I had just seen him," said someone else. Quickly, people looked at the statue. There. Someone swallowed and pointed at the statue. That was the common point. Many people then looked over at Qing Meng Xian. "He's Lin Feng," said Qing Meng Xian. Those people had the impression their brains were going to explode. The one who had just talked was Lin Feng. They had just said his wife was talking nonsense. That extremely beautiful woman could criticize the statue if she wished. Master O Yi was a nobody in front of them. According to legends, Shui Yu disappeared in just one day because of Lin Feng. And now he's back. Indeed, Lin Feng is too strong. I wonder what his cultivation level is now. The people sighed. The news spread quickly in Yangzhou City, and soon everybody knew that Lin Feng had come back. At that moment, Lin Feng and Tang Yuyu were still having a walk in Yangzhou City. They looked like ordinary pedestrians. Tang Yuyu was smiling. As expected, the Shui Yu you created is almost the same, but now it has started changing. Your Shui Yu is like it was in the past. Of course, my parents are there. They like to feel like at home, it's their hometown, said Lin Feng smiling. Someone who hadn't grown up in Shui Yu wouldn't be able to see the differences though. The people in Lin Feng's Shui Yu didn't know they were somewhere else. Why did you want to come here? Asked Tang Yuyu, holding Lin Feng's arm and smiling gently. I initially wanted to go back home with you. Isn't it a good thing? Replied Lin Feng with a smile. They spent some time in bars and restaurants. The news that Lin Feng had come back had already spread in Yangzhou City, and many people noticed them. However, the two simply rose up into the air. It's Lin Feng, it's really him, said someone when he saw them. Lin Feng. The crowd raised their heads, but Lin Feng and Tang Yuyu had turned into beams of light and disappeared. How fast? How strong? People ran after them, but after a few steps, they stopped, unable to follow. What a pity, they wished they could have seen Lin Feng. After leaving Yangzhou City, they crossed the empire of Shui Yu and headed to Dragon Mountain to see Tang Yuyu's family. Tang Yi and Tang Rui were already quite strong and had their own lives. Lin Feng and Tang Yuyu came down in a courtyard and looked at the sunset. Behind them, Tang Yuyu's father looked at them and smiled kindly. He couldn't see how strong they were anymore. Unfortunately, his grandchild wasn't here. Chapter 22-28. Tribe's Goddess. A couple was walking on the snow holding hands. The woman looked extremely pretty. She let go of the man's hand and ran on the snow, laughing. She was so beautiful that the snow around her could have melted, just like the man's heart. That's Tianqi Snow Peak there. Is that where you studied back in the days? Tang Yu asked Lin Feng. Lin Feng gazed into the distance, smiled, and nodded. In front of them was the city of Tianqi. Many people were walking towards the city, aiming to become Tianqi's disciples. Let's go and see, exclaimed Tang Yuyu, waiting for Lin Feng. She grabbed his hand again. Many people who wanted to become disciples of Tianqi were waiting at the foot of the snowy mountains. Many people looked at Lin Feng and Tang Yuyu, viewing them as competitors. Lin Feng and Tang Yuyu were talking in low voices. They immediately entered Tianqi, but some people came up to them quickly. You can't enter Tianqi. Lin Feng was still holding Tang Yuyu's hand and smiled gently. You can't follow. The two blurred into the wind and disappeared. Those people were astonished and spun around. The two people were already far away. The guards' hearts started pounding. Those people had entered Tianqi without permission. What to do? He said we can't follow him. He's probably a strong cultivator from abroad. We can't disturb them. Let nature take its course. They don't look evil. A few disciples from Tianqi nodded agreement with those words. Lin Feng and Tang Yuyu arrived at the top of a snowy peak. Lin Feng remembered his time there. He was wondering how his Zun-level teachers were doing. These days, the main peak of Tianqi was Tianxian's snowy peak. There were two leaders there. Tianqi Shui was at the top of a snowy peak. She sensed something and turned around. She suddenly looked astonished, and her eyes became dazzling. Lin Feng nodded and smiled at her. Tianqi Shui's mouth was wide open. She wanted to say something, but she was speechless. A strong wind started blowing and both of them disappeared from her field of vision. Tianqi Shui's face stiffened. She gazed into the distance and saw Lin Feng already far in the distance. What is his current cultivation level? Wondered Tianqi Shui, still speechless. She didn't chase after him. Lin Feng and Tang Yuyu continued walking from peak to peak, enjoying the beautiful scenery, then continued flying. The Huang Sea was still a stormy place, but Lin Feng and Tang Yu could travel freely there. Now and then they passed a boat, and when the people aboard saw two figures flying across the Huang Sea, they were stupefied. Lin Feng and Tang Yu had shaken the entire region of Ba Huang, the northern part of Ba Huang, the western part of Ba Huang, the southern part of Ba Huang, the central part of Ba Huang. Lin Feng had already spent 5 months in the small world. Chapter 22-29. Great changes over time. Lin Feng was extremely strong. He could easily heal ordinary injuries instantly. For injuries which weren't obvious, Mu Yun had some remedies. Together they quickly finished healing everyone. When they left together, people stayed there and watched them leave. Some were envious and jealous. Mu Yun was like a goddess to them. She was looking at that man with admiration and kindness. At that moment, they were wondering whether their priestess Mu Yun was in love with him or not. Was it the reason why she refused to be with anyone else? Because she liked him. Lin Feng and Mu Yun smiled at one another. Lin Feng, since the last time you came to Yaoyi Island, how much have you progressed? Asked Mu Yun, smiling lightly. I'm now at the top of the Huang Qi layer, replied Lin Feng easily. How fast? Mu Yun's lips twitched. Your fighting abilities have always been higher than your cultivation level. I wonder how strong you are now? Lin Feng gave a non-committal reply. He looked at Mu Yun and said, I'm traveling because I want to become a great emperor now. Oh, I'm sure you will succeed, said Mu Yun confidently. She had faith in Lin Feng. He had achieved so many things in life. Back then, he had destroyed the celestial Qi castle. Yun, what do you intend to do in the future? Asked Lin Feng smiling. What could I do? I'll stay here and live a peaceful life. That's the best for me. Mu Yun smiled. Her eyes twinkled. It was difficult to know what she was thinking. Your entire life? Lin Feng asked her. Yes, I like it that way. I like the environment here, and I like people here too, Mu Yun nodded. If you're happy here, then it's perfect. I hope you'll always be happy, said Lin Feng. An old man arrived. When he saw Lin Feng, he was surprised and smiled. Little Lin Feng. You came to see little Yun? Uncle Chiu, yes, I came to see Yun, Lin Feng answered politely. This old man was Mu Yun's neighbor. In the past, Lin Feng had lived in their tribe so he knew her neighbors. Back then they sometimes chatted together. Alright, good. You should take her with you. Even though the tribe needs her, she's bored here alone, Uncle Chiu smiled. Lin Feng was surprised and glanced at Mu Yun. Mu Yun blushed and said, Grandpa Chiu, what are you talking about? You tell me, said Uncle Chiu. I saw you grow up. I know how you feel. Each time you talk about little Lin Feng, you seem to be happy. Your most beautiful smile appears on your face. You think I don't understand those things? Lin Feng's eyes twinkled. Mu Yun blushed even more. She lowered her head and glanced at Lin Feng. Yun, I don't want you to leave, but I hope you can go with little Lin Feng. This little boy is a good boy. Please stop, said Mu Yun, stamping one foot. In the distance, the crowd saw that. As expected, Mu Yun liked him. All right if you don't want to. I don't know what you think, said Uncle Chiu, shaking his head in exasperation. Lin Feng looked at Mu Yun. Mu Yun raised her head and said to Lin Feng, don't listen to Uncle Chiu. I'm happy in the tribe. I understand, said Lin Feng, nodding and sighing. He walked to Mu Yun, put his hands on her cheeks and smiled. If you need anything, ask me. All right, Mu Yun nodded. She didn't dare look Lin Feng in the eyes. I'm off. When I have time, I'll come back and see you, said Lin Feng. Mu Yun raised her head and stared at him. She looked sad. He had just arrived. Was he leaving already? She forced herself to smile and nodded. All right, that's a promise. That's a promise, Lin Feng nodded. They looked at each other for a few more seconds. Lin Feng took his hands back and turned around. Then, he rose up into the air and disappeared. Mu Yun looked sad and nostalgic as she stared after him for long minutes. Lin Feng and Tang Yu continued their journey. Tiantai controlled the 9 great celestial castles these days. Qingdi Mountain didn't have much power there anymore. Tiantai had too many contacts. Goldfire City's Goldfire Tower, Sword Mountain, Yaoyi Island, the Holy City, and Tiantai's headquarters in the Holy City. Gradually, Tiantai was gaining power and influence everywhere. Tiantai also continued recruited geniuses in Champion University in the Holy City. Lin Feng didn't stop in on the 9 great celestial castles, he just crossed the area. He went to Yaoyi Island, Goldfire City, and then back to Sword Mountain. Hu Yu and Emperor Xin Yu were back at Yaoyi Island. At Sword Mountain, Lin Feng exchanged views on cultivation with Emperor Wu Tianjian. Emperor Wu Tianjian was astonished by his growth. Lin Feng continued traveling. Time passed and a year went by. 2 years had passed the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. Out on a vast sea, Devamara Kulpa's strength fell from the sky onto Lin Feng's body. The earth and sky were shaking. Demon dragon-shaped energies appeared in the sky and kept pounding on him. After 9 waves of Kulpa strength, Lin Feng's physical strength had increased again. However, Lin Feng didn't look satisfied. He raised his head and looked thoughtful. Back when he was at the top of the Zun Qi layer, cosmic energies should have cleansed his body. However, because he had a forbidden body, cosmic energies hadn't come down and he hadn't been able to break through to the Huang Qi layer, even if he could control cosmic energies when he was at the top of the Zun Qi layer. What was going to happen now? Would he be able to break through to the Di Qi layer? Would the same thing happen again? The Kulpa Indestructible Devamara skill was a terrifying technique. It was even great for Saint Emperors, and Lin Feng was only an emperor. Now he had the full version, so there was no reason for him not to break through to the Di Qi layer. However, he hadn't done so yet. His physical strength was incredible and stable. Only his cultivation level didn't follow. He raised his head and looked at the sky. He didn't understand, what did it mean to have a forbidden body? Back then, he hadn't managed to break through to the Huang Qi layer, and now, would he be able to break through to the Di Qi layer? What was he supposed to do to continue progressing on the path of cultivation? Lin Feng spent 2 years that way. People slowly forgot about the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. All the cultivators who had participated practiced cultivation in peace, and people slowly forgot about them, except Chu Chunqiu. Chu Chunqiu was still very famous. Even though he hadn't finished first, he had finished in the top 3, and according to legends in the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds, the destiny wheel had rotated because of him. The imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds was a special place in the continent. It stood at the top. They knew more than most people in the continent. People knew what it meant when the destiny wheel rotated. Chu Chunqiu was in the supreme animal world's Ganges time, and the fortune shrine also acknowledged him. After having gone there, the rumors spread that he had broken through to the Di Qi layer. After that, he fought against a great imperial dragon. 2 years later, the news spread that Chu Chunqiu had come out of Ganges time and that he had won against a genius of the dragon clan. He was progressing extremely fast. Chu Chunqiu was backed up by the fortune shrine and the supreme animal world. It proved that he was extremely strong. People were convinced that he was the one who had made the destiny wheel rotate. Apart from Chu Chunqiu, who had his own life, Kong Ming, who had ranked 2nd at the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds, was also becoming an astounding cultivator. However, after the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds, he had disappeared. As for Zhou Rongman, who had ranked 4th, he shook the whole imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds. Apart from Chu Chunqiu, the second most famous cultivator was Zhou Rongman, because everywhere where he went, he said to people, "My name is Zhou Rongman." Hua Qingfeng was more discreet. Sometimes, people noticed him in the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds. However, according to rumors, his cultivation level hadn't changed, as if he were stuck in the Huang Qi layer. That seemed inconsistent with his past performances. Regarding the other cultivators of the top 100, they could travel from An to the imperial court of the continent of the 9 clouds freely. Many of them preferred traveling around the world to become stronger, however. Of course, all that news was about the emperors of the meeting. However, all those things had nothing to do with Lin Feng anymore. Tang Yu was with him and they were traveling around the Dark Night region. Chapter 2230, Long Night City. Time flew by. It was as brief as a glimpse of a white colt flashing past a chink in the wall. Lin Feng traveled, he crossed cities and cities, and even forgot about time. Deep in a forest in purple clouds, Lin Feng was facing a terrifying beast. It had 4 hoofs like an ox, the head of a tiger, the claws of an eagle, and terrifying eyes. "Stupid humans," said the beast aggressively. Its chi was boiling over. Beasts in the surroundings fled. This was a young beastmaster of the Di-Chi layer. It was an earth-type beast and had incredible defensive skills, and controlled heaviness Dao strength. At that moment, Lin Feng and the beast were standing in a gigantic crater. Lin Feng's blood was boiling and shaking. When the heaviness Dao reached a certain level, it could crush people flat under their own weight. An ordinary emperor would have died instantly. Even emperors at the top of the Huang Qi layer could feel under pressure against such beasts. Even Lin Feng's muscles twitched. At that moment, Lin Feng's clothes were not very clean, his hair was messy, his beard had grown out and was long already. He had already spent some time in this and killed many beasts. The gigantic great imperial beast opened his mouth, and a terrifying earth spear shot from it at Lin Feng. Lin Feng grunted coldly. He jumped away as spears continuously emerged from the beast's mouth, attacking him one after another. There were cracks as some hit him, and weren't able to pierce through him. His physical body was incredible. The beast was speechless. A great imperial beast surprisingly had no way to injure an emperor? Lin Feng's physical strength was obviously incredible. He had studied the Kulpa Indestructible Devamara skill and the Devamara body cleansing technique. His defense was astonishing. However, his cultivation level hadn't risen, and sometimes, Lin Feng felt annoyed about it. 1 year, 2 years, he remained calm, but as time passed he felt more and more nervous. The Devamara Kulpa strength was becoming useless. He couldn't break through. Lin Feng started having doubts about himself. It was even more difficult than before, when he couldn't break through to the Huang Qi layer. He didn't know what to do. He had sent Tang Yuyu back to his spirit's world. He could only rely on himself to break through to the Di-Chi layer. When the great imperial beast saw that, he looked at Lin Feng ferociously. The air began to rumble, and a terrifying heaviness strength surrounded Lin Feng as the beast galloped towards him. It felt like millions of elephants were stampeding towards him. Lin Feng continued running forwards. An incredible amount of demon lights flashed. He raised his arms and his fists, the atmosphere distorting around his fists. It felt like the earth and sky were about to collapse. The great imperial beast released a great earth sword 10 zhang long. It was impossible to dodge. Lin Feng released and condensed demon strength. A gigantic black sword appeared, also hiltless. It collided with the enemy's gigantic sword. The atmosphere kept trembling from the chi in the air. Die! Millions of threads of death strength turned into millions of spears and moved towards the beast. The atmosphere became dark and desolate. Everything died around those demon energies, even the grass turned black and started rotting. The great imperial beast's face turned deathly pale as a pitch-black strength surrounded his body. His life was being eaten away. This emperor's cosmic energies were extremely powerful. He was a great emperor, but he couldn't compete with this high-level emperor. What a genius! Lin Feng had started understanding Dao power when he was a medium-level emperor. Such human beings were terrifying. Quite often, celestial emperors started understanding Dao power a little bit better, and usually they understood Dao power as well as Lin Feng when they became saint emperors. Lin Feng could easily crush ordinary great emperors, but in general, he could defeat all sorts of great emperors already. The great imperial beast roared furiously. Lin Feng's terrifying Dao power scared him. He had the impression he was about to die. A gigantic hand appeared, earth strength condensed and turned into a gigantic wall blocking off the death strength. However, Lin Feng still arrived before it, the air crackling around him. The death strength rolled around and swept away its chi before surrounding it. The beast roared defiantly, before turning around and fleeing into the distance. However, Lin Feng wasn't ready to let him escape. He followed lightning quick. A death spear pierced through its body, and at the same time, he punched its skull. The beast suddenly stopped moving and then crashed onto the ground. These days, great imperial beasts couldn't do much against Lin Feng. Lin Feng didn't find them strong anymore. Lin Feng's cultivation level didn't change, but he kept becoming stronger. Back in the celestial country, mountains of corpses formed around him. He was already much stronger than back then. Lin Feng looked at the gigantic body and took it away. Great imperial beasts' bodies were still useful. He continued walking through the forest. He was in the depths of a gloomy forest, and there were many terrifying beasts there. Many of them were gigantic, imposing, and magnificent. All the beasts were intelligent. Lin Feng was practicing in the forest. He killed as many beasts as he could. Even great imperial beasts couldn't do much against him. Lin Feng crossed that wild country. There were also some human beings there. In most places in the continent, human beings and beasts coexisted and competed. What a dense and thick bestial qi, thought Lin Feng, looking at an animal castle. It was new to him, but he just studied it for a short time before continuing along. After a very long time, he saw another human being. That energy looked like the energy he had seen in the King of Hell's palace. What is that place? Thought Lin Feng. It had attracted his soul's strength. The purple qi was attracting his soul. It was a mysterious feeling. The purple qi was thick and powerful. It was probably the territory of a powerful group. Many cultivators had gathered there. They seemed like they were there to sense the purple qi. Some people were standing outside a fortress. There was a young man in the crowd. Someone came here with their soul. What a prodigy, said someone next to him. Impressive. In the whole city, only people from Jiao Yu's ministry have a purple soul qi, which then turns into the purple soul celestial walls which can envelop Long Night City. Maybe that person is attracted by purple soul qi? Said the young man, smiling coldly. So what? Even if that's the case, many people are insatiably greedy. It's still difficult to get close to Jiao Yu's ministry. Back then, Brother Yi Ying left Jiao Yu's ministry and participated in the meeting of the continent of the 9 clouds. He finished in the top 20. He's extremely strong, a beautiful woman wearing white clothes said coldly. However, when she heard Yi Ying's name, her beautiful eyes twinkled. How strong do you think the owner of that soul's strength is? It's just a thread of soul. I don't think he's a great emperor. He's crazy arrogant to get that close to Jiao Yu's ministry, said the young man icily, clenching his fists. He spat out some sword intent, which shot into the distance. Lin Feng sensed the sword energy. His soul flickered and dodged. He wanted to get close to see what was going on there, but surprisingly someone attacked him. His soul turned into a figure and looked at the young man on the ground. However, the young man frowned and waved his hand. He wanted to block Lin Feng's soul and moved quickly. Lin Feng's soul was getting ready to leave, but sword strength closed on his soul from all directions. It quickly destroyed his soul thread. Idiot, said the young man. He grunted icily, and his sword energy disappeared. On a boulder outside Long Night City, Lin Feng suddenly opened his eyes, which glittered with ice-cold lights. He released a terrifying death intent. A great distance away, the one who had just attacked his soul sensed the death intent and shivered. How strong! In Long Night City, there are purple clouds, and in some areas, there's death water. What is it? Asked Lin Feng to those people icily. They were all startled and felt a great pressure. Their questioner's consciousness could kill them. As expected, it wasn't wise to judge a book by its cover. He looked wild and scary. One of the groups of Long Night City, Jiao Yu's ministry, replied that person. What are the purple clouds? Asked Lin Feng. Purple soul qi. Jiao Yu's ministry gathers the purple soul qi of the earth and sky in the center of Long Night City.